Wesleigh Whitson's daily mission is to feed 150 sailors on a Navy submarine. And at Qatar Airways kitchen in Doha, chefs prepare 200,000 meals that have to catch a flight each morning. We travel the world to meet the chefs preparing dishes in the most high-pressure situations.
These Navy culinary specialists are preparing 15 pounds of turkey, 10 pounds of ham, and pulled pork sandwiches made from scratch, along with mac and cheese, corn, mashed potatoes, and cookies.
Almost.
To serve a crew of 150 sailors.
Pulled pork, macaroni.
And they only have about 5 hours to prepare each meal.
You want the soup too?
But this isn't your typical Navy galley. This is where meals are made. On a submarine. In classified locations deep at sea, the crew of the nuclear-powered USS South Dakota works around the clock to monitor
Submerged ship, making depth 155 feet, pilot eye.
and potentially engage with foreign threats.
We're tasked to go do something, and we go do it.
For up to 9 months, they work and live within the tight confines of their windowless ship, where every role is critical to the mission's success. Among them are the culinary specialists.
Oh, yeah.
These crew members have an essential responsibility, feeding up to 150 sailors and fueling them for the challenges that lie ahead.
We are essentially the morale of the fleet. If our morale's low, their morale's going to be low. And you can usually taste it in the food.
Business Insider spent 2 days aboard the USS South Dakota while it lay in port at Naval Submarine Base New London in Groton, Connecticut, observing culinary specialists preparing breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the crew.
The USS South Dakota is a Virginia-class submarine. Specifically, it's a Block 3, meaning it has a few more capabilities and a few more modifications than the regular Virginia-class submarines. And the ship is manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week while we're in port for security reasons.
While some off-duty crew members go home to see their families, those on board rely on the meals prepared by the culinary specialists.
It might not be everyone all at once, but I'm going to feed everyone. So if I have 150 people on board, I'm going to feed 150 people pretty much almost every meal.
Because the USS South Dakota is a nuclear-powered submarine, its time at sea is limited only by the amount of food it can carry.
About 2 weeks in, you'll probably run out of fresh food. That's the unfortunate reality of it. So we have some food in the outboards. We have food in every locker imaginable. If there's space available and we can kind of quickly put food up there and maybe ratchet strap it down, we'll take that opportunity to do that.
Fully stocked, the sub carries about 90 days worth of food.
The strategy for keeping fresh food aboard a submarine is you just accept when you run out of fresh food. And the second you get an opportunity to get more fresh food on, you take that opportunity.
Today for dinner, we're having Thanksgiving. So we're having turkey, ham, mashed potatoes, gravy, hot rolls for our bread. So this right here is essentially my menu. The actual name for it is the food preparation worksheet. But layman's terms, this is essentially my menu. This tells me everything that I'm having for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Today, Petty Officer CSS Wesleigh Whitson is preparing 10 pounds of ham and 15 pounds of turkey.
Because the turkey itself, I'm gonna have to actually like cut up a little bit, throw some seasoning on. But the ham, I literally just unwrap it, throw it in a pan, wrap it up, call it a day. So that I can do real quick. So that's good with that. And then when I'm ready, I'm just gonna throw it in the oven, and then I'm just gonna let it bake out. So really easy, nothing too crazy, and done. Yay! One less thing I gotta worry about. Okay. Manning for us is supposed to be roughly about like 7 or 8. I don't have that right now, so I'm working with what I got. But because there's only so few of us, not only are we essentially manager, but I'm also the cook. I am the guy that has to make it. So I not only have to manage everything, but I have to make sure that I'm actually getting it done myself. Days will usually take care of like lunch and dinner and for the meals. The night guy will kind of help prep for lunch a little bit, but the day guys will take over and they'll finish it.
With extended deployments, confined spaces, and shifts that can last up to 12 hours, submarine assignments aren't desirable to many.
Not a lot of people wanting to join the military, but also not a lot of people wanting to join subs, within the Navy, especially as a culinary specialist, as a cook. And I get it, this job isn't for everyone.
To compensate, the Navy offers an additional $85 to $600 a month to submarine crew members based on rank and time in service. Culinary specialists who work aboard submarines earn a base salary of about $26,000.
Now we just let those set and proof. So I'll give them roughly about an hour or so, and then I'll turn it over to actually bake, and then they should be good to go. So not only am I the galley watch captain, but I am also our bulk storeroom custodian, or JOD as we call it, which stands for Jack of the Dust. That responsibility for me is to go about and do what we call breakouts, or shopping, to put it in layman's terms. They'll look at the menu, they'll write a list of like what groceries, what food items they need, or groceries, and it'll be like, I need this stuff, and I'll take it and be like, okay. And then I just go to where we keep all of our food, all the storerooms on board, and then I will break it out for them. That way they have it available for the next day.
Food is kept in storerooms, small cabinets, and other locations around the ship. But because of operational security concerns, cameras were only allowed in the galley during our visit.
Space is a luxury in a submarine, so definitely keeping food anywhere where we can to maximize the amount that we have on board. So actually in all of these bench seats we'll have food, as well as these backs we'll have some extra dry provisions. And that'll be the same for all these bench seats. That'll have some maple syrup, chocolate syrup, strawberry syrup. So any kind of random select items like that. We'll have soy sauce in those. We'll have seasoning in these outboard ones. Yeah, so we got bags of soup in there. So I am the supply officer at shop on board. What that means, I'm responsible for both the food service division and the logistics division. So the first storeroom I have is the forward storeroom, or the can room, which, as the name implies, is just full of cans. Typically this room is actually a lot more full, with cans coming all the way up to this front door and then actually going to the ceiling. So as we fill this up with more cans, kind of like deciding what we're going to use first and making sure those are actually put in the front. When the guys need to get something out of the freezer, they'll actually put a jacket on, get a headlamp on, get a beanie on, pretty much just layer up like they're going to go in a cold area. Like this area is below freezing most of the time. Right now it's negative 3.9 degrees.
All food aboard submarines is logged and tracked every day, and the budget for meals is determined by a daily allowance per sailor.
If we're in port, we can spend anywhere from like $700 to $1,000 a day, and then if we're out to sea, anywhere from about $1,600 to like $2,800 per day. We operate off of a 28-day cycle menu. We'll have the same meals every 28 days. It's definitely designed where it creates that kind of consistency throughout the week. So if you're having Italian on a night, it's a Thursday, or if you're having pizza for dinner, then it's a Saturday. So it helps the crew kind of keep their own pace, and honestly helps them pass the time. If you're like, oh wow, this is the second time we've had pizza this underway, then it's already been 2 weeks.
Ooh, I can smell it. Ooh, almost.
Back in the kitchen, Culinary Specialist Whitson has just 1 hour before the crew begins to line up for dinner.
How's it feel to be done cooking?
Feels good. Good to know that all I have left is to serve this out, and then after that it's just clean up, and then I'm done. I don't got a whole lot else going on. I am going home to my wife, and I am getting my cuddles.
Rich? I'm doing great. I will take everything but the ham.
Extra ham? I got you. Extra ham. I got you. Just for you, because I know how much you love that pork.
Oh man, you already know.
No corn and no soup.
Extra corn, extra soup? I got you.
It's great.
I remember 3 of them.
I honestly love cooking. I love being in the galley. I love working with food. I love putting out really good meals and making people happy with them. I like seeing everyone being fulfilled and having a good meal and enjoying themselves with it.
On a sub, there is no internet, cell service, or access to the outside world other than mission-critical communications and the occasional email from family transmitted via secure satellite, leaving crew members to find their own ways of staying entertained during the little downtime they get.
I'm either reading a book, watching TV, whether it be like a TV show or a movie, or I'm playing on my laptop.
My favorite way to pass time underway was honestly just spending time with my guys. You know, maybe if it's just playing chess in Cruise Master, like even just listening to music in my room or listening to music in the wardroom, just kind of distracting yourself in a way, but also keeping yourself busy while keeping your mind active. I think that's the best way to do it.
On every submarine, the crew's mess is designed to reflect a piece of the state it's named after. Aboard the USS South Dakota, the space draws inspiration from Deadwood's iconic Saloon Number 10.
That's where the crew goes to relax. It's also where they eat. That's also where they, kind of let their hair down and study if they need to, or play cards, play dominoes, play video games, conduct training. It's kind of all purpose. And that's what the Deadwood Saloon was to South Dakota back in the 1800s.
The next day, Culinary Specialist Lupin Jimenez steps into the galley, ready to prepare breakfast for the crew. On the menu this morning, steak and egg burritos, pancakes, hash browns, and bacon. It takes 3 hours to prepare the meal.
May I do a steak burrito with eggs and bacon?
And at 7, the hungry sailors make their way to the crew's mess for breakfast. As breakfast comes to an end,
When you getting that pork butt going?
Here in a couple minutes.
Oh, you guys have lunch already?
Yeah.
there's barely a moment to rest. Jimenez must quickly shift gears and start preparing lunch to make sure he can feed 150 crew members.
Time is like pretty irrelevant here on a sub because we're just working by hours. It's 12 hours on, 12 hours off. And then once we get off, it's either go have fun or go straight to bed. This is about to be the pulled pork. I'm putting the meat into the mixer along with the juices it was boiling to shred the pork rather than me taking a long time by hand. The quicker you get it done, the less you gotta worry about. But you still got a time management to the meal hour. That way it doesn't just sit on the line for a very long time because that becomes a bad thing.
Meal today that we're having for lunch, the pulled pork, mac and cheese, and the corn chowder. It's actually one of my favorite things to make. Out of all of them, the mac and cheese is probably my favorite thing to make.
I'm gonna have to give it to Manly with his mac and cheese. Sometimes he will make his favorite, which is spicy mac and cheese. Really spicy for some reason. I feel like he puts ghost pepper hot sauce in there or something. But other than that, it's good. I'm about to make some hot roll dough and turn them into buns from scratch.
How many rolls do you have to make?
I want to get at least around 100 and 120.
How many do you have so far?
I would say about probably 80. 120 will last me throughout the meal, and then it'll assure me to have at least a little bit left over. That's what I'm going for. That way I don't run out.
A bit more salt. Do you have potato in there?
No, we don't got potatoes.
So do you might?
Please do not put all that in there.
No, I won't. I'll leave that up to you if you want to add some. But it's definitely on the thinner side. Yeah, I can do a little more salt. That should be good.
As the lunch hour nears, the wardroom is prepared, a space designated for the ship's officers.
There's significantly less officers on board a submarine than there are enlisted, so they get their own room.
For lunch today, we have pulled pork, mac and cheese, cauliflower, and green beans. Great, thank you.
Typically used for work, relaxation, and socializing, the wardroom becomes a dining room during meal times.
For the officers, this is their place to come and eat. The family-style meal serving that happens in the wardroom is very history-rich.
While the dinner service is a privilege for the officers aboard, it's not uncommon for them to join the crew in the crew's mess.
Pulled pork, macaroni.
And that's when you put them together.
Got to.
Sour's great.
Mac and cheese is always the bomb.
I love pulled pork.
I love the mac and cheese, the pulled pork, and
Before returning to sea, the USS South Dakota will undergo thorough maintenance, followed by sea certification, a process that tests both the crew and the submarine to ensure all systems are fully operational for the next deployment.
Every single dish is made from scratch at the Qatar Airways Catering Kitchen in Doha. It churns out more than 200,000 fresh meals a day, even for regional short-haul flights. It all needs to be prepared about 48 hours before takeoff.
I think perhaps the biggest challenge is just ensuring that there's consistency and that everything runs smoothly.
The chefs here believe it's part of the reason the airline has been named #1 in the world for the 8th time since 2011. This kind of cooking used to be the standard in most flights in America too, no matter what cabin you flew on. But today, most US airlines don't run their own kitchens, opting to buy from catering services instead. So why has economy airplane food gone from luxury to a point of ridicule in the US? And why do so few airlines still cook their own meals? No workers are allowed to step foot in the kitchen without walking through this air shower corridor first.
To ensure that we have no biological or any physical contaminants going to the kitchen.
This is Felipe Hempe's playground. 4,000 people from 38 countries work at the Qatar Aircraft Catering Company, or QACC. It's a part of the Qatar Airways group. The team develops new menus every 3 months. All the produce is fresh, even though they're operating in a food desert. They go through 30 metric tons of fruits and vegetables daily and use custom machines to help prep them for meals. Like this bin that can wash 12,000 peppers a day. And this machine that peels 6 cantaloupes in under a minute. Other produce like dragon fruit, strawberries, white asparagus get a more delicate treatment. They're peeled and carved by hand.
It's a big routine, making almost 200,000 meals a day. The team is rotated throughout their time working here.
Inside the hot kitchen, the aroma of cumin, garlic, and onions fills the air. Chefs prepare dishes of several different cuisines, from Indian to Arabic and Asian.
We base them mostly on the demographics of that flight. For example, for America, we have a lot of traffic from the Indian subcontinent.
They use over 300 potatoes every day to make aloo tikki, a popular street food in India. The kitchen goes through 36,000 whole fresh eggs a week. And another 3.5 tons of pasteurized egg whites are turned into 12,000 omelets a day. Even the smallest change can be costly.
We need to ensure that we're going to be able to meet the quantities without having to make any substitutions. The moment we have any substitutions, then menu cards will be affected and things like that.
There's also a big emphasis on making most food from scratch, even for items that are often bought frozen or pre-made, like sausages and pasta.
If you're ordering ravioli from economy class, you're getting freshly made pasta, which not many airlines do that.
Bread products are also prepared on site. Bakers churn out 10,000 croissants an hour, as well as handmade focaccias. Pastry chefs design new desserts every quarter, like these chocolate brownies made from scratch.
We're giving this an economy, and it's a homemade eggless brownie. Tastes really good with a mousse underneath.
While people here handle food all day long, taste testing is only reserved for a select few.
For each of our kitchens, we have a centralized tasting area. So I'm here with Chef Harish, who's our executive chef for QACC. Our senior chefs will taste the food, log it down, and give their comments. If something does not pass our criteria, we redo the meals.
Pretty good. Yeah? You agree?
Qatar Airways has a total of 270 international flights leaving from Doha per day. And on average, the airline serves 350 meals on each flight. This facility also provides meals to other One World Alliance partners that fly out of Doha and to the 19 lounges at Hamad International Airport. All the food is halal, prepared in accordance with Islamic dietary laws because Qatar is a Muslim country. So, for example, you won't find any pork on the menu. But when it comes to drinks, the airline does serve alcohol once you're up in the clouds. Unlike some Muslim carriers like Saudiya or Kuwait Airways, where it's banned. Once each dish is finalized, it's stacked on a tray and labeled.
The reason we put a barcode is to ensure we have traceability for every dish, as well as for the team on the other side to be able to easily find what they need for assembly.
It also helps them track any food safety issues down the line.
We can trace it all the way back to the person that made it, the day they made it, the time they made it, and we can then further investigate if there's a need.
The trays are cooled for 90 minutes to prevent the growth of any bacteria or pathogens. And then
temperature is checked once again by our infrared thermometer. Then the food is covered, scanned, and sent for storage.
It's not possible for the airline to prepare everything on the day of the flight. So usually, they make food in advance and refrigerate it for 1 day at the most. Any longer, and the taste and texture could change, especially for starchy foods like rice or pasta. But nothing is fully frozen. This cooling chamber is set to below 5 degrees Celsius and can store 3,500 trays at a time. A robotic arm adds and removes trays as needed across 30 levels. In the cold kitchen, workers prepare fruit bowls, dips, and about 12,000 sandwiches a day. Many of these items end up on short-haul flights, which are less than 3 hours long.
Peter here will request our mashed potatoes.
A few hours before the flight takes off, the food trays that were stored in the chiller are brought back in for portioning. Workers on this line have their eyes at all times on the golden sample. The combos are endless and change depending on the route. The economy meals are dished up on trays and packed away. Business class meals are temporarily portioned in these foil containers. Flight attendants will later plate and serve these dishes, paying a lot of attention to the presentation, which will ultimately look like this. Qatar Airways tries to bring hints of luxury to economy too, in the details. They offer 18 meals that customers with special dietary needs can pre-order.
We have sort of our religious meals, we also have our medical meals, and then we have our specific meals like child meals, etc.
The culinary team has designed 50 meal choices for economy and first class each, and 150 for business class that are dished out based on a flight's route and duration. Every cabin gets real silverware. All these items are dried, hand-polished, and assembled again, ready for the next flight.
We're always looking at ways to reduce single-use plastic. We are looking at materials for our meal kits to be able to have less impact on the environment.
Qatar Airways won several awards, including the Apex Award for Best Food and Beverage. But they can't maintain high standards by only sourcing local products, as Qatar is one of the hottest and driest countries in the world, with no lakes or rivers. Growing things here is hard.
Currently, we have more imported ingredients than local. However, this is something that we're trying to change. We're working together with a lot of local farms, fisheries to provide some of our products.
That includes tomatoes, cucumbers, spinach, and bok choy. The trays are stacked on these carts that are rolled onto trucks that head for the tarmac. The trolleys are pushed onto the aircraft and locked into the galleys. Flight attendants then work their magic.
We have newer generation ovens, which allow individualization of temperature and humidity when it comes to reheating the meals.
Food has been served on planes since the 1920s. But back then, it was handed out cold because there was no way to heat it on board. In the US, United Airlines opened the world's first airline kitchen in 1936 in Oakland, California, with just 6 employees making about 60 meals a day.
Regardless of the season, your crossing will be smooth.
In those days, the US airline industry was regulated by the federal government. So carriers were legally required to serve every passenger an entree, 2 vegetables, a salad, dessert, and a drink as part of their ticket price. But the glory years of airline travel and food were the 50s and 60s.
It was nice to relax in comfort as pleasant as our own living room and to be served with such courtesy.
Flight attendants on Pan Am made real scrambled eggs in the galley. Old posters showed them slicing and serving roast beef right from the trolley. And hot meals were served even on domestic economy. But in 1978, President Carter signed the Airline Deregulation Act, allowing airlines to set their own fares, routes, and services. Competition immediately heated up. Airlines quickly cut flight prices to attract customers, but looked for other ways to make up for lost revenue, like slashing food options. In fact, in the 1980s, the head of American Airlines, Robert Crandall, famously came up with the idea of removing just 1 olive from every salad. And that reportedly saved $40,000 a year. In 2010, Continental, which is now United Airlines, became the last major US airline to end free domestic meals in coach. These days, the term airline food has become a joke in the US. Many domestic flights on economy offer pretzels and nuts at best. And low-cost carriers like Spirit Airlines give nothing unless you're willing to pay up. Passengers have even criticized long-haul meals in business class from carriers like United. But all US airlines are private or public, and they claim some international carriers like Emirates, Qatar, and Singapore have an advantage because they're state-owned. These days, many airlines use a third-party caterer for hot meals. The largest players are Gate Gourmet and LSG Group. That's the company that caters for several major airlines like Delta and Air New Zealand. Their head of culinary, Justin Cohen, works closely with LSG to develop recipes and prepare 6.7 million meals a year, just for Air New Zealand and its lounges.
Look, I think I've probably got the best food job in the world, to be honest. I get to fly around the world, taste brilliant food, meet amazing people, and deal with big, hairy problems. I'll be showing you guys a little venison dish that we got serving in flight at the moment.
He says the biggest challenge is making food that will taste good at 32,000 feet or above. On some planes, your taste buds are about 30% less sensitive to sweet and salty foods. That's because of the pressure, dryness, and engine sound. In older 777s and A320s, the cabin is pressurized up to 8,000 feet, so it feels like you're eating lunch on Machu Picchu. And humidity on board can sit as low as 12%, less than some deserts. When you have a dry mouth and a worsened sense of smell, foods can be twice as bland. So historically, that meant airlines piled on the salt for you to even taste the food, sometimes leaving passengers feeling bloated. But in new planes, manufacturers are making conditions on board easier on your body. In the A350s, 380s, and 787s, cabins are pressurized up to 6,000 feet. So instead of Machu Picchu, it feels like you're eating dinner in Denver. And because new planes are made of more carbon fiber, it's possible to increase humidity to about 24%. Still, Air New Zealand prepares for all conditions.
You have to be very precise in your cooking temperatures, not only in production, but also in flight. We then have to heat it to the exact 12 minutes that we specified. And should anything happen like turbulence, it kind of throws those timings out. And so yeah, it has to be very precise, very specific.
That's a lot to remember for flight attendants.
Also understanding that our cabin crew are not chefs, right? They're doing the best that they can.
To make their lives easier, Justin's team avoids serving certain foods altogether.
Things like fried foods don't heat up too well, as well as pastries.
Another hurdle is the sheer scale of the operation.
There's probably around 200 dishes flying at any one time getting made here out of Auckland. You take in your special meal requests, there's 14 different types of special meals, and so you can see how quickly that number compounds across all the different courses, different cabin classes.
All these challenges feel overwhelming, but Justin isn't easily intimidated.
Pressure's a gift, in my opinion. Diamonds are created from pressure, so we embrace it, we roll with it, and that's just the airline industry. Planes need to go on time, and catering must be there.
Meanwhile, demand for in-flight catering keeps growing worldwide, as the number of airline passengers is expected to rise from 4.5 billion in 2019 to 4.7 billion in 2024. And some airlines in the US are beginning to shift strategies again. Recently, American Airlines opened a brand new facility in Dallas that prepares nearly 15,000 fresh meals a day. They're mostly reserved for their international routes or passengers in premium cabins. The airline says the in-house kitchen helps American cater flights more efficiently and serve customers traveling from their largest hub. Emirates, the UAE's national carrier, is a big player in the business, making over 77 million meals a year, even for short-haul flights. And they'll cater their menu based on destination. So, if you're headed to Paris, you'll get a croissant in the morning. Flying to Mumbai, you'll most likely get kachoris. Stopping off in Japan, how about some soba or a bento box? And if you're heading to the airline's home base in Dubai, you'll get the Arabic meze selection. It also specializes in Middle Eastern sweets, all made in-house. The assembled trays are loaded onto trolleys that run along this 1.5-mile monorail. It's how massive amounts of inventory move safely through the building. Back in Doha, Felipe's team has ways of figuring out which meals passengers actually prefer.
We do something called offload checks. 3 or 4 times a week, we will personally go and check what's coming from the flights, and then we can sort of see the trends of what people are eating, what they're not eating.
The cabin crew also carry a tablet to gather feedback on meals and send those reports directly to catering. Using that data, the kitchen can supply the aircraft with more dishes that people want while reducing the meals they hardly touch. And that also helps cut down food waste. So, after all this, what's the favorite meal of the man who's tried them all?
Every day we're tasting food. I have a soft spot for Asian food, so we keep our food pretty authentic, and I think that's very important for our passengers as well.
This is Navy Culinary A School.
You have no flavor on this plate, none whatsoever. Okay? Right? Your meat is not done at all.
Navy sailors spend up to 9 months on deployment, on vessels like aircraft carriers and destroyers in oceans around the world, thousands of miles from land, which is why every year the Navy trains 3,900 culinary specialists to join the fleet.
Everybody's got to eat, and it's either going to make people happy or make them upset.
After graduating from boot camp, future Navy culinary specialists head to Fort Gregg Adams, Virginia, where they spend 5 weeks at the Navy's Culinary Specialist A School, learning how to cook meals for up to 5,000 sailors.
It's a 5-week course, and it's going to teach them food preparation, sanitation, nutrition, and any type of basic food skills they need to prepare food when they make it out to their next command out in the fleet.
I want you to take a fork, and I want to see your face expression. You need some water? Yeah, it does have yeah.
The role of a Navy culinary specialist is to feed Navy sailors and also DoD personnel established on Navy military installations, as far as on ships, submarines, CB battalions. Also, they serve at the Vice President's house, and also 4-star flag officers.
On a carrier, we're serving about 3,000 to 5,000 people total, so that's a big difference.
Students arrive at the schoolhouse with varying levels of cooking experience.
I have really never had any experience cooking before I came here. I went to the Culinary Institute of America.
I love to cook. My passion is cooking.
Taco Bell, Applebee's, AMC, and Chipotle.
Some of them have minimal experience working in restaurants, but most of them do not have any experience. And we prefer some without any type of experience so we can train them the right way, the way that it should be done.
They're getting me ready for the fleet, and I'm not gonna be cooking for 20 to 30 people. I'm cooking for 1,000 to 3,000.
Business Insider spent 5 days following different classes in various stages of training, where students learn the importance of sanitation and nutrition, techniques of cookery, small quantity baking, and culinary math. With the Department of Defense deploying naval ships to the Middle East amid the threat of war, as well as a growing Navy presence in the Indo-Pacific region, sustaining our sailors is paramount.
When we're sanitizing it, we're only reducing it to the number of microorganisms to a safe level. But when we talk about sterilizing, right, we make free of the microorganisms. So basically we're taking all the microorganisms, right? Know the difference? Yes.
Students spend the first week of training in the classroom, learning the importance of sanitation and nutrition.
We is the #1 reason why people are able to get sick. So what we try to do is make sure they take care of their hygiene first.
What's cross-contamination still? In your own word. Better give me an answer still.
At the end of each training block, students must pass a written exam.
You gotta read the instruction. That's what it's there for. Because inside the instruction, verbatim, it tells you exactly how things should be done.
During techniques of cookery, students learn the basics of cooking, from how and when to utilize specific equipment, to the various techniques they'll need to prepare a meal.
We go with a knife safety training, which is 4 safety rules when it comes to a carrier. Knife. From there, we go with the different types of chops, right? Cube chop, dice, so forth and so on. If I say cube, what type of cut is that?
Cube?
Cube. What's cube? How many inches? You got it right there. What does it say?
Before students can enter the lab,
Class 180. Attention.
they go through a uniform inspection.
I look for a nice crisp mark, right? With 2 fresh creases in the front, 4 creases in the back.
Mr. Boston, man, look at your boots, man. Oh, man, look at Mr. Boston. Creases in the back.
The fingernail have to be cut, and if the fingernail is cut, it also gotta be free of dirt, grime, or anything that caused food to be contaminated.
Tell me what's wrong with this picture. It's dirty. What you need to do before you start with the wash some dirt. Wash some dirt. Look.
If they haven't saved and they don't have any type of no save document, then they need to go do the proper save.
We get that no shade shit like I said. You ever set it up? I give you my dirt. Look at me. It's okay. I ain't gonna do nothing to you.
Then from there, I'm just looking for a nice, clean uniform. Nothing on the uniform at all.
Father.
Each class begins with a demonstration from the instructor.
Horizontally first, down the line. Cut as many lines as you can until you get to the top. Flip it directly towards you, right? Vertical.
They show students how to prepare a meal step by step following a recipe card.
All right, so at this time, right, let's make our beef stew and rice. You gotta know how to read the recipe card, right? Once the instructor facilitates how to make their product, their job is to go back and literally verbatim emulate what the instructor put out.
You're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is this?
Some of them come from a background where they were watching their grandmother or their mother cook back at home. They're trying to take what they learned from back at home and bring it here. But they have to understand some of the things that we would start bringing up wasn't always the proper way to do it. Pretty much we're trying to break the mindset of what they utilize from home. I got one chef who paying attention, right? Send me one more product, it's almost done, right? So I got 1 out of 10 that paid attention. You sure? Because you already had your carrots and your potatoes. They started out perfect. What happened is they end up putting all the ingredients all in at once. And when it comes to making beef stew, certain ingredients you're supposed to put towards the end.
Went from looking like soup to looking like beef stew. That don't look good. Yeah. I mean, Amore's looks great, but he got a competitor now. How you feel about it? You know, the way it looked before, I was like, damn, I can't cook. But I see this now and it's like, damn, I did that. I did it.
You need constructive criticism, so it's really good.
It is.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Did you taste the meat?
Yeah, I tasted it.
Was the meat nice and tender?
It's good.
You keep saying it's good. I don't even trust your word, man. Put some more water in here. We have to be honest with the person that we are selecting to eat their food, because in order for them to learn, they gotta know their mistakes. And if we're not able to tell them the mistake, then we're doing them a disservice.
He's not wrong though. It's good. It tastes like ravioli.
No, it does not.
Your tomato paste is sticking out.
No, it's not.
It's not great, but it's not good.
We're making a rice bed. When we pack it in there, nice and packed, and put it in the center. All right. So what you want to do is, right, you want the heart of the ship and morale of the crew to be showing. Right. Let's put it in there or flip it over. So if it don't, then we're gonna be in a roll of trouble. All right. Come on, all the way around. All about presentation. Right? Take your paper towel, right? And try to get close to the edge as possible, right? We eat with our eyes, so if their plate don't look pleasant, then we're not gonna eat it. I have this thing where at the end of the meal, once they get done with their product, I give them an opportunity to come up with their own restaurant. I sit down and I treat them as a restaurant manager or CEO, and I am the customer.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Welcome to Polaris.
And I do constructive criticism back to them so they get an idea of what it feel like once they get to the fleet. Because once you get to the fleet, there's gonna be a lot of constructive criticism out there. And you gotta be able to learn how to take that.
May I present to you my meal?
Okay. Before you serve me that, sir, I would like to know what is on this plate.
It has potatoes, beef. It has limited edition sauce, only created by us.
I'll make sure we get a little carrots. All right, get a little bit of potatoes in there. All right, here we go. Sir, you want to make $2 off this plate. All right? You want to make a dime off this plate. 1, presentation. Okay? Presentation. 2, you have no flavor on this plate, none whatsoever.
He said that it wasn't so good, that it was probably like $2, not $10.
What you did to boost up my cholesterol. Look at all that oil. You understand what I'm saying?
It was my first time going off a recipe. I got some very good commentary on my food. It wasn't the best. Okay, that's fine. We're gonna keep striving for greatness.
Good afternoon, sir. Working at JT's.
JT's, okay.
We want you to try our newest
beef ragu.
Beef ragu, okay. Beef ragu, all right. Missing the enhancement here. All right, missing some type of salt. This is more as a creamy taste. We're not looking for anything creamy. So right now, right, you're looking at a 4.5. All right, you're looking at a 4.5.
The seasoning.
Right, you gotta add more seasoning, you gotta add more flavor, you gotta bring it out. Other than that, man, I think y'all did an outstanding job, man. I like that y'all finished in a reasonable time.
Following the recipe, like I followed it a little bit, but then I know he said sometimes you can like steer off and you have to try to break that habit from how you cook at home to how you cook in the military. When he tasted the food, he said he didn't taste it, but I know I put a lot in there. Getting a 4.5 was a little bit of a shock, but I mean, he has to keep it real with us and let us know like, hey, you know, you did this pretty well, but you need to work on this and you can do this better.
Go ahead and put your meat inside your pot. You get them in, sometimes they like to take a mile. They want to be creative with the product that they are making, but they get outside of what we tell them to do sometimes. With us, it's all about teaching them the basic knowledge, right? Because by teaching the basic knowledge, that gives them an opportunity, right, to take that mile when that mile is presented to them.
Everything the students learn during techniques of cookery is put to the test at the end of the week when they take a practical and a written exam before moving on to the next stage of training.
Onion yellow, basil sweet.
During the practical, students have 1 hour to make spaghetti and meat sauce according to the recipe card. This time, without the help of their instructor.
I'm excited for the test. I've been studying a lot. I've actually made spaghetti before, so this is actually pretty good. Hopefully everyone likes it.
In order for you to pass it probably, you just have to do the basic. You gotta know how to read the recipe card.
Oh, this doesn't look normal now that I see it.
With the basics, you gotta understand that the recipe card that we are made today, it required us to cook a small batch of spaghetti and meat sauce, not a large batch. So we can't get behind ourselves and try to add more to the pot, and then we end up overpowering our product.
Come on, look good. That really good.
You see how good that smells? You can literally smell the seasoning, can't you? See how like theirs, it just smells like...
If you don't smell the aroma, bro,
then you're not cooking.
Bro.
Get out the kitchen.
Listen,
We've got no taste.
No, Rick has no scent.
Hey, do you smell? It smells great. Great. We're always going back and forth. Well, you don't do this, you don't do this. And bringing it in the kitchen, it's more just like a motivation, like, all right, my food is gonna be better than yours. It's good. A bit more salt. A bit more salt, okay. Is the meat nice? It is. It need salt. Okay.
It's good. From 1 to 10, what would you give that?
6.
Okay, what about mine? If I had salt. If I had
6.
Hey, Elliot.
But let me hear that. It got flavor.
Salty. Try your own product. Try your own product. That's way too much salt. Would you agree?
It got flavor.
It has salt.
That's literally a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. That is done.
Time?
Done. You just got noodles left. Find a way to come up with the plate. It's gonna look great. Better than yesterday. Yesterday was not great.
As the practical comes to an end, the students hurry up to finish their meals and present them to the instructor.
I'm looking for the attention to detail. I'm looking for how much did you pay attention when I was actually giving out the instruction. I'm also looking for how much you paid attention to the actual recipe card. What I'm looking for is plate presentation. I'm looking for that nice flavor. Let's go.
If he says my noodles are bad, I understand. If he says the meat is great, I would understand too, because I tried it. It's great.
Good morning, sir. Welcome to Qatar Airways. I would like to introduce you to our chef.
That's you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Can I help you?
Well, today I would like to know what's on your menu for today.
Today we have spaghetti. As soon as I gave him my plate, you can see the oil, and I saw it too.
All right, take a look. You see all that grease in there? What you think you're supposed to do in this situation right here?
Drain the grease off.
You're supposed to drain the grease out, right? But if you ain't able to drain the grease out, right, you could have utilized flours to absorb that, right? You do not want to serve your customer, right, a plate of grease.
He gave me some good feedback. Again, it was too oily. He said it was good. It was just too greasy. And the noodles was, from the start, I already knew my noodles weren't gonna be so great. They were pretty dry.
Right in there, and do have a good taste. Do have good taste. As far as in sauce-wise though, I'm looking more for that right? I didn't really get a good taste of the sauce, right? It tastes more like ground beef and noodles. So make sure, right, you focus more on the sauce, right? Tracking? But I do got good taste though. So good deal, good deal.
Personally, my dish to me, it was good. I kept retasting it. Amoa said that it had no salt. So I kept adding salt to it. I kept adding water or tomato paste. And slowly it kept changing the flavor. And my result was good. It was too oily, I understand. I didn't know how to remove that. But my end result, it was pretty good. I liked it.
It's seasoned very well, so you know
what it's seasoned with?
Salt, pepper, black pepper, sugar.
We also have tomatoes. We have tomato paste.
I'm actually kind of nervous.
The taste buds are going on a trip right now.
You literally taste every season, right? No, that's not a
good thing. I can rinse somebody's blood pressure up.
I should not be tasting the oregano. I should not be tasting the thyme. I taste both of them. Why? Why do I taste that?
Because it's heavily seasoned, so your taste buds will go on a trip.
Why would you over season it with basil? You know what oregano and thyme is? It's one of those exquisite tastes that you don't want to overpower with. Because they give a bad taste in your mouth after, right? But that's all I taste though. What's the other flavor? By tasting that part right there, now it's over salted. So that means that you went heavy with the salt?
For me, it was hard to tell the difference between the salt and sugar because they're both white.
So why would you put them side by side, man?
I wasn't thinking. I had them all on a plate and they were all just decorated very.
Did you follow the recipe card? That recipe card said half a teaspoon of oregano and thyme, right? No more than 1/4. But I can guarantee y'all did more than just that. This right here feel like a tablespoon of each. I want you to take a fork, and I want you to, and I want to see your facial expression.
You want to eat just me?
That's what you need to taste. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You need some water? Yeah, some juice?
Yeah, it does have that.
Got a kick to it.
Oregano at top.
Seeing him do it, I'm like, okay. But then when I'm back there doing it myself, it's like, oh crap, you know? All that just went right out the window, so I'm a little frustrated, but I'm gonna get it together soon.
Y'all kind of over garnish. I like that y'all made the ground beef pile in the middle, but you should not add a naan on the side. You didn't need none on the side. Before I ate it, and if you would have took this to a judge, what you think that judge would have said? I mean, he probably wouldn't been disrespectful like that, but you know, that's probably what he would have said. But it do got some type of flavor. It's just all over the place. Just moving forward, man. Let's focus more on making that sauce, right? I asked for a sauce, okay? This is just ground beef with noodles. Y'all go ahead and enjoy y'all video, man. They didn't do too well as far as pay attention to detail. Okay? If so, then they would have asked for made more of a spaghetti meat sauce than just ground beef and noodles. Overall, it was fun. I think they did good. I got a lot of great places as far as in presentation-wise. I did get a lot of great flavors when it comes to each product. Certain product wasn't so great.
These trainees will continue to develop their culinary skills during the remaining 3 weeks of training. But once they get to their galley, everything they learned at A School will be put to the test.
As far as in a DDG, a smaller platform, those are the type of CS that put in a lot of work because they don't have that many CS in the galley. It's a lot of things that they have to pick up at a quick, timely manner in order for them to be able to run the galley by themselves.
Weekly, we purchase around $5,000 to $7,000 of food. All depends on our class size. And yearly, I mean, you name it, it can go up to $180,000.
According to the Navy, the average culinary specialist makes about $48,000 a year.
And that pay can vary if they're going on a seagoing vessel, a submarine, or any type of shore duty facilities, but the average sailor makes around $4,000 a month.
First thing we're going to do is go over the utensils that we have at our station. Can you please hold up the first utensil, please, so everybody can see it? In the Navy, you're out for a good while, and sometimes it can be a little depressing, but baking is therapy. It helps with your stress level. People don't realize that, but just baking is something about it that kind of eases the soul. This will begin our block for baking for your pies today. So I hope everybody studied for their pies. Did we study over the weekend? Yes. Okay, all right. When they get to the galley, they're going to be doing large quantity, but they have to learn to bake with small quantities from the beginning. So I'm just going to roll back towards me, roll and lift. Roll and lift. If you do it the same way I do it, you'll get the same results, okay? Usually with pie, that is a difficult day. It's rolling the pie crust and getting the thickness that they need, or thinness, I like to say. Making sure that they have enough coverage for it to actually fit in the pie pan, and then actually putting it in the pie pan without it tearing, breaking, and so forth. So they really have to pay attention to the instruction during the demo for that. That looks good. You all can turn your oven off once you pull your pie out.
One fault when it comes to making quick breads is over mixing. So we're gonna mix these by hand. In this module, we go over quick breads, breads and sweet doughs. We do cookies and cakes and pies.
I'd bake more brownies and cookies, stuff like that. So getting to learn how to bake biscuits, cake, stuff like that from scratch. I take it in and try to soak it up as a sponge.
No, just want to shape it now, don't keep mixing it.
So the culinary school in New York, they're teaching you how to make small batches. And compared to the Navy, they're getting me ready for the fleet. And I'm not gonna be cooking for 20 to 30 people. I'm cooking for 1,000 to 3,000. So that big quantity difference, it's gonna help me to learn how to multitask, triple task if I have to. Compared to doing 1-2 steps, I'm learning to do 3, 4, 5 steps at a single time.
So 7 1/4 ounces, there's only 8 ounces in a cup. You said you put a cup and a half in? That's what, 12 ounces? You were 5 ounces over.
That's why we measure.
That's why we measure it. That's why we weigh it.
I see where I messed up.
Because weighing is more accurate, right?
I see where I messed up.
Yep. One of the sailors totally messed up all the ingredients, started over, not a big deal.
Is there a chance that I can recuperate?
If you want to remeasure all this stuff and give it a shot, go ahead. That's fine. But you got to remember, that's why.
I failed to read instructions. Simply, I got nervous, I got locked up. I normally never do that, but it was because of that and not following instructions.
Yeah, way too much.
I realized when I poured the water in there, because I didn't weigh it. What they teach you, basics, measurements, and reading, and I never followed the instructions.
Baking is, like they say, is like an art and a science. So I think unlike cooking where you can kind of miss a step here, miss a step there, add a little bit too much or take some away there, you really got to follow the recipe here and be precise, and time, temperature, and ingredients all play a big role in baking. Let's see what you got, Reynolds. No, yes?
They're almost there, they just don't like it enough. There you go, your golden brown color. I'm proud of myself, I got them all on time. I honestly thought they would come out not the way I wanted it. And to be honest, I'd rate them about 8, about a 7, 8.5 out of 10. They came out fluffy the way I wanted it. The golden brown on the top, it was getting there. I know if I left them a little longer, it'd get to it, but I felt like it would have dried it out.
Again, students must pass a written exam that covers everything they've learned in the classroom.
We do a practical, which is a muffin, basically giving them the recipe card based off of everything that they've learned since they've been in small quantity baking. They're just let loose to see how the product turns out.
They cannot ask their instructor any questions. I can't even tell them to turn their oven on when they're supposed to turn on their oven.
We all had 20 minutes to gather all our ingredients. We weren't able to start and combine stuff until everyone did that. I looked at the recipe about 2-3 times, knew what I was gonna do, what I was gonna take action of before he called the timer.
You now have 1 hour to mix, bake, and clean up all your stations, and then obviously pull your muffins out of the ovens. Don't forget to follow the methods. All right, y'all can begin. Are they following the recipe? Are they doing the right methods? Are they measuring instead of weighing, or weighing instead of measuring? Just basic stuff like that. Did they preheat the oven? And we're just looking for consistency. These are standardized military recipes, so we're just looking for consistency to how many people got, close to the same product.
feel like they're coming out pretty good. It looks like it's getting that nice golden color. Maybe a little overfilled, but doesn't mean it won't be good.
I'm confident in my skills. I'm pretty sure they're going to come out pretty good.
So this is exactly what happens when you overmix right here. This one actually looks really nice.
Looks can be deceiving, so let's see what we try.
I ended up overmixing, which doesn't really cause the taste of the muffins, but more of the look. So I didn't get that muffin top how it's supposed to look. Everything else did come out though, came out nice and golden brown, and the flavor was 8 out of 10.
This is all basic level entry for baking. Like some of them have never done it before. Would never fail anybody for giving it a good shot, basically. But out of the 9 students, 7 of them had really great muffins. Oh, that's nice. Good golden color right there. That's pretty good, Estrada.
Thank you, Chief. Honestly, the way I felt about going into the practical, I didn't really want to do it. Baking wasn't really my forte. It's not my strength, but you gotta step out your comfort zone sometimes and just do the best you can.
Good job, man.
My muffins were good. I kind of like mine a little more golden. Could have used a little bit more sugar, but we gotta follow the recipe to the T. So.
Oh, Chief, you gotta try it.
Baking is, in my opinion, the most important thing on the fleet. That's where you're gonna have the highest morale boost right there. You get a nice hot, fresh muffin, cookie, cake. If it tastes good, it looks good, you're just gonna be happier eating it.
So that we know if the entrees or the side dishes we are putting out, the crew likes, right? Which is really important during deployment because it's gonna be things you're gonna put out and the crew's gonna absolutely hate. But the things that they do like, you'll see those are over 100%.
Students must also master what's known as culinary math, where they learn to adjust recipe cards to accommodate the size of the crew they're feeding.
All our recipe cards we have, they are per 100 portions. We learn culinary math, and the culinary math that we teach them is quantity, yield adjustments, also how to do recipe conversions. Because you may have a small ship that has only 150 people, that's a submarine, and you may go to a carrier that carries over 5,000 people.
Students also learn equations used to determine the crew's satisfaction with a specific dish.
If it's lower than 5, you round downward, it stays the same. That's correct. So class, did everybody get 84%?
Everything the students learn in the first 4 weeks is put to the test in the final stage of training, known as Galley Week. Students will spend 4 days preparing meals inside a kitchen similar to those found on Navy ships and shoreside facilities.
The biggest challenge for our students is being up this early and not being quite used to it, because in boot camp, they don't get up this early. So 4 o'clock in the morning, wake up, sometimes 3:45, to get here by 5 and immediately start working. There's no time to come in and I'm gonna take a break, I wanna sit down. You gotta come in here and get down to business.
They work as a team to prepare breakfast and lunch each day.
It's just a small practice run for those going to the ships.
Yes, mind you, on the ship, this pot is about 10 times this size. It's gonna be a workout, yes ma'am, it is.
Galley Week culminates with a special meal. This class is preparing oxtail, curry chicken, chicken dumpling soup, ribs, and mac and cheese.
So special meals are served to the entire schoolhouse. They get to express to the rest of the students and instructors to show the techniques, the baking, and they get to showcase that I can follow a recipe card, I can put out a good product, and follow directions.
Reading recipe cards on the book for tests is one thing, but reading it and then actually incorporating that into the actual dish is a lot harder than you really think it is, especially doing it the Navy way.
I'm in charge of the curry chicken, so I'm just browning it, and then we're gonna marinate it and put it into the oven, and then it's gonna cook the rest of it. I'm only browning it.
Then you gotta do the same thing.
You need help? Yeah. Yes.
When you cook a big meal like this, you tend to get distracted or you tend to get tired. So always making sure everybody stay on their P's and Q's.
Because if you contaminate the rest of this, you have to throw away 20 eggs just for one. Make sense? Let me know if you need help, man.
These past few weeks, I have enjoyed every single moment. When I step inside the classroom, I open up my mind, I soak up knowledge like a sponge, and it just has been great, to be honest. I had a lot of fun, and that 5 weeks that I was dreading has gone by really fast, and I really miss it, to be honest. I'm not even going yet. The only thing I think I don't really have to worry about right here is this.
As lunchtime nears, the class begins moving the food to the dining room.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
I am CSSN Talbot.
And I'm CSSN Knott.
And on behalf of Class 150, we would like to cordially invite you to lunch today. On today's menu, we have
jerk ribs, oxtail stew, curry chicken. Do you accept our invitation?
Yes, I will be down there shortly.
Perfect.
Okay.
Lunch starts at 11.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Inviting people to breakfast and lunch, that's a big thing for us here at A School. We want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to eat what we have created for them.
Oxtails, macaroni and cheese, rice and peas.
That's it.
Yes.
So today my role was setting up the wardroom. You get the drinks, you create a menu of what the officers would like to eat. Today we had to set it formal, so we had a formal dining set today.
As you saw today, that you have to be here, you have to be here, you have to make sure that this person is taken care of, whatever they're short over here. So just making sure that you're focused on the mission, but making sure all parts of the mission come together so it can get played out perfectly.
Class 150, attention.
Marching down the avenue.
Marching down the avenue.
Class 150 coming through.
Class 150.
So today we graduated 8 schools. So we received our certificates that we finished class.
Very bittersweet because everyone's going to different parts of the world, but also a great moment too as well, especially for me being promoted to E4.
The Navy says over 99% of students who start the course graduate.
The first shot is going to be formal, okay? The second shot is going to be goofy.
A lot of classes come in and they don't all stay together. Some people fall behind. Everybody that's here right now is everybody that we had when we started.
They were going to leave for 2 weeks, spend time with their family, recharge their batteries, then after that they'll go to their ship.
So when I get home, I'm going home with my mom. My mom's already, she already know what she's making me for dinner.
Getting my nails done, finally being able to wear earrings again.
Once these new culinary specialists deploy, they'll spend 3 to 5 years preparing meals on Navy ships.
ولا إشي بنمر فيه ولا إشي حتى أبسط الأشياء طبيعي. دايما في صوت الزنانة دايما بتزن. لازم تطلع لازم تروح على شغلك لأنه في ناس كتير رح تاكل لما أنت تروح. دايما بكون قلقان خصوصا أنا بطلع الصبح. إنه شعور إنه عادي أنا ممكن ما أرجعش. فيش أمان لا في الطريق ولا في أي مكان. إنه الواحد يلاقي أكل كتير صعب. مش أنا اللي بحدد موضوع الطبخ، السوق هو اللي بحدد. الأسعار بتكون في فترات خيالية، صعب إنك تشتري الأغراض بكميات كبيرة. فهذه الشغلات كلها صعوبات أنا يعني بتواجهني يوميا.
كم الموز؟ 4 ب4 كيلو 7. هاي الكاتشب هذا كم؟ هذا كبير. نرجع له. ايش اسمك؟ موسى؟ وين ساكن يا موسى؟
وين ساكن؟
كنيونس.
مرات بتمر أشهر بدون لحوم أو دجاج أو سمك أو أي نوع من أنواع اللحوم أو البضاعة الطبيعية يعني. فترة هذا موجود صدر الدجاج، موجود الوينجز.
لو بدي 50 كيلو يعني عندك 50؟ بدنا نعمل وينجز بروست. نعمل عليه صوصات ونعمل الاشياء اللي بنعملها كنا قبل الحرب.
وانت ماشي بتصور
يعني انا اكثر الاشياء اللي بحب اعملها انا انظف الجناحين. خذ في راس هذا عشان انا بدي اتضايق منه. نظيفه.
روست في الحار.
بديش ولا شعره. اكثر شيء خلاني اعمل هذا الاكل او بالكميات هذه، شفت اقبال كبير للناس انه هي مشتاقه للاكل تبع قبل الحرب.
أول فيديو طبخ عملته بعد 5 شهور من الحرب. قررت أعمل زبدية تونة على غرار اللي هي زبدية الجمبري المنتشرة عندنا في غزة، والحمد لله طلعت لذيذة وبدأت تنتشر بعد الفيديو تبعي بشكل مش طبيعي. أنا حسيت إنه بدأت أنشهر صح بعد فيديو التاكو المكسيكي. حسيت إنه فعلا الناس اللي برا بدأت تعرف فيا وبدأت تتابعني. كل هذا تطوع مني لسعادة وطعم الأطفال فقط لا غير. والترمينال ريليف تواصلوا معي، هما شاف المقاطع وعرض علي انه ليش ما تجرب تشتغل معنا نعمل الاكل. هما بيطلقوا تبرعات من جو فاند مي، هما طبعا بتكفلوا بثمن المكونات.
1 2.
وهاي الشراكات صراحة فادتني أنا بشكل كبير.
انت انا بمسكك فيها زيه بالضبط، امسك هذا هيك كان زيه.
قصة النظرة الحادة هي أجت من فكرة إنه صارنا شهور بنخاطب العالم بكل اللغات، كل العالم هذه ما تحرك. يعني جتني فكرة يمكن العالم أساساً يعني بيحكي بلغة الصمت، يمكن لغة العيون يفهموها.
لا خلي الشب غلب.
بسمع أشياء ممكن تخليني أتضايق لما أنا بوزع الأكل، إنه ما أكلتش مثلا، صار لي من بداية الحرب ما أكلتش لحمة، صار لي من بداية الحرب ما أكلتش إشي حلو. الناس هاي كلها كانت عايشة منيح، اللي بصير فيها كتير صعب.
من عناية يا عمو. ها كويس هيك. ها
أنا بدي أعطي الناس أمل من خلال هذا الأكل.
صحة. تعال دوق انت. تعال. ايه صحة.
إنك تديهم إشي يصبرهم، إشي يأكلوه وينبسطوا ويحسوا إنه لسه في أمل. دائما تديهم أمل إنه الحرب مش نهايتها الموت، يمكن نهايتها الحياة. ممكن تكون الأيام الجاية كويسة.
لقيت احنا بندور على مكان عالي عشان ننزل فيه الفيديو هذا. فيش نت في كل خان يونس. هذا تقريبا أعلى منطقة. مين بظبط، بارتنر ولا هوت موبايل؟ بارتنر. ولا شبكة شغالة، فيش نت. هلا عمر ازيك؟
حموحة
كيف امورك؟
تمام الحمد لله.
صار لي ساعة بحاول اجرب اشبك نت عشان انزل الفيديو.
فيديو؟
بدي اشبك نت لو 10 دقايق.
قد ايه مدته الفيديو؟
دقيقة.
هو في نت قدام عندنا عند الصحفيين بس بدك 3 ساعات وانت قاعد تحمل.
مش مشكلة بقعد
شوي يعني.
بقعد له.
روح قصدر ابو
والله؟
ب 10 متر بتلاقي عند الشباب.
ماشي حبيبي.
يعطيك العافية.
الله حبيبي. أنا جاي أشبك نت عشان بدي أنزل فيديو فبدي تساعدوني.
7000
شبك فتقريبا صار لي 3 أيام مش شابك نت.
أنا لما بقعد على النت وبشوف شغلات صرت بحس إنه أنا بعيد كتير عن النت، بعيد كتير عن واقع الناس برا. أنا بشوف التعليقات اللي هي على صفحتي على الانستغرام تعليقات كتير حلوة يعني، وبصراحة بتبسطني وبتديني طاقة إن أنا أكمل وأفكر في أشياء جديدة.
أكتر إشي مشتاق له قبل الحرب إنه أعيش أو أقعد يوم هيك في بيتي. هذا بيت خالي، فيش عنا خصوصية.
هذه أوضة نوم أبويا، هذه أوضة نوم أخويا، هذه أوضة نوم أخويا المتزوج، وهذه أوضة نومي.
فأنا أكتر شيء بفتقده الاستقرار والخصوصية وراحة البال، وإنه أنت صاحب قرار إيش بدك تعمل وإيش بدك تعملش.
آخر فيديوهات أجتني لبيتي وهو مقصوف، اللي أنا عشت في بيتي 2 شهر لأني متزوج جديد.
لما طلعت من البيت ما خدش شيء ضروري يعني، كله قلت خلاص لما ارجع باخده عادي يعني، مش في النهاية وين بدي اروح يعني. هينا
يومين وراجعين.
يومين وراجعين. طلعت
بس اخذنا اللابتوب.
اخذت اللابتوب لان انا اصلا بشتغل على اللابتوب، ودبلة الزواج ضلت في البيت. انت جبتيها؟
انا ايوه
تمام.
فلاشة الفرح، وكانت هذه الصور يعني من اثمن الاشياء اللي احنا شايلينها في كل لحظات حياتنا. الاكل اهم حاجه.
لا بس كان ياما جعانين، ما كناش من الصبح.
ولما عملنا جلسة التصوير برضو جبنا اكل.
كان يوم حلو، كنت مبسوط. بحس ان انا شايف حدا تاني، بحس انه هذا الانسان مش انا يعني.
قبل الحرب كنت انا اللي بصور حمادة. كان الوضع صعب ارجع اعمل زي قبل اصوره لانه وضع حرب، بس كنت بساعده في طريقة المونتاج من البيت.
يعني كنا بنتمنى انه هو ينعرف وينشهر كفود بلوجر في العالم، بس مش في ظل معاناتنا.
انا بالنسبة لي هاي السنة كانت سنة يعني سنة زي اللي انسرقت منا
اجراي ركض يعني. هي بس انه احنا طول الوقت هذا احنا بس بنجري من مكان لمكان، بننزح من مكان لمكان، بنجري عشان ناكل، بنجري عشان نشرب.
كانت فترة حمل لميس، هي فترة حصار، ما كانش فيه أكل خالص تقريبا، ما كانش فيه أي إشي فريش.
أنا كتير كنت خايفة أولاده في الظروف هاي، ما كانش متوفر الأشياء الطبيعية اللي لازم تتوفر لأي حامل.
الولادة كانت صعبة، الولادة أخذت ما يقارب 6 ساعات. أول ما شفت نزار ابني صراحة كان موضوع صدمة، إنه أخيراً أرجع الدنيا.
وانا اصلا لما بشوف نزار بقعد اتخيل فكرة انه اذا هل انا راح اشوفه في وضع احسن من هيك او انا هعيش معاه بقى حياة طبيعية ولا كيف حياتي شكلها الجاي يعني.
ما تغرق ليه؟ يلا تنام يلا تنام
واذبح
لك طير الحمام روح يا حمام لا تصدق بضحك عزوزو تينام.
قيمة اللحظة مع أهلي دايما بقدرها يعني دايما.
بحب أكل أمي أكتر من أكل المطاعم.
وإنك تولع كمان نار كتير أمر كتير صعب، خصوصا إنه فيش غاز، فنضطر إنه نستخدم أثاث المنازل المهدمة اللي ضايلة من البيوت، وطبعا هو غير صحي.
طبعا انا لما امي تعمل اكل انا بحب احط شيء في الاكل. ليه؟ عشان اكل اكل زاكي كتير.
مقلوبة طبعا بالمعلبات، العلب اللي بتكون في مساعدات. رغم الظروف الصعبة هينا بنحاول.
امتى البوبو بصير ينفع ياكل مقلوبة؟
حسبناه لسه مطول.
طول؟
مشتاق ان انا اقعد قاعدة هادية ما بدون اي ازعاج، بدون اي شعور بالخوف او بالقلق.
ايش رايك في اكل هنا؟ كويس تمام.
هذا كله يطلع حلم هيك وخلص ويروح.
احنا في ظروف زي هذه ما بقدر افكر في مستقبل. عندي امنية انه انا مثلا ممكن تخلص الحرب واعيش طبيعي. بس وين بدي اعيش طبيعي يعني؟ يعني في غزة ما لناش بيوت. زيزو زيز خلاص حبيب ابوه حبيب ابوه.
كنت بدي بس انه كل اشي يكون تمام
ابويا،
مفيش اشي ينقص عليه، واكون انا وياه يعني اعيش معاه حياة طبيعية.
كيلو باي.
يلا باي.
احكي لبابا باي.
احكي لي باي زوزة.
طلع فيه
زيزو.
مش يطلع فيه.
الخوف على اهلي، الخوف على ابني، الخوف على مرتي. الشعور دايما بتحس انه كل لحظة هي اللحظة الاخيرة. بدي اعمل اشي ايجابي، اشي منيح. وابني لما يعرف يكون فخور فيا. بعد الحرب راح اضلني فترة طبعا اطبخ للناس، لانه اكيد بعد الحرب في شغل اكتر. هذا هو دوري وهدفي.
يلا يلا يلا.
مستقبل غزة متعلق بمستقبل أهلها.
يلا واحد اثنين ثلاثة. سخون؟
الشعب هذا مهما يصير فيه ما بيستسلم، هو مصر على الحياة. لما تنتهي الحرب إن شاء الله راح أرجع أبتسم، إن شاء الله لو ضليت عايش.
Customers travel from all over the country to chow down on this 200-foot buffet.
You come here, you eat until you start laughing.
Oh my God, I don't even have enough hands. It will set you back just $16 on a Saturday morning.
I feel like it just sums up American culture so well. Lots of cheap food.
Come on into Old Country Buffet.
All-you-can-eats like this used to be all the rage across the U.S. Even big chains like Pizza Hut and KFC got in on the trend. But especially in the last decade, buffets have stumbled. Their U.S. market size is down roughly 30% since 2012.
But this place, Shady Maple, has thrived.
On average, 4,000 people come here every day to eat. So what happened to the all-American, all-you-can-eat? And why, against all odds, has Shady Maple kept the big business of buffets alive?
Now that, crispy.
I met with Summer Smith, Shady Maple's food quality manager, bright and early on a Saturday morning.
Good morning. Yeah, got a little maze. Yeah.
The cooks start prep at 4 a.m.
We'll go through about 700 to 750 pounds of bacon.
Saturdays are their busiest days as they race to prep for 8,000 people.
We're gonna be going that way. Oh, the energy is high. It's like our Super Bowl.
The chefs cook a ton of different dishes, from American to Pennsylvania Dutch fare, honoring the Mennonite and Amish traditions of the area. Like this local delicacy called scrapple.
Liver, and it's ground up.
At the fryer station, they crisp up sausage patties and links. On the griddles, chefs drop hundreds of pancakes. This line is for egg dishes. Summer and her team go through over 700 eggs for a Saturday breakfast. On the other side of the kitchen, this team starts cutting veggies for lunch.
They'll set up this chopper. The broccoli, cauliflower, they chop by hand. It's a lot of prep.
By 8 a.m., the line wrapped around the lobby, and I was getting a little hungry, so it was time to check out the buffet myself.
Hi. Just one.
Just one today? That is going to be $17.69. Okay.
Gotcha. Is there a time limit?
There is not a time limit. You can stay as long as you'd like. Just if you want to stay past 11 o'clock, that's when we switch over to our lunch buffet. There you go. There's your ticket. Head down there. You can get seated by a hostess.
Okay.
And they'll let you know how everything works.
Thank you so much. Can I get an omelet with everything on it?
One chocolate chip.
Oh, yeah. This is like childhood right here. Jiggle. Scrapple. She said this was a Pennsylvania favorite. Never have too much bacon. French fries. You need a little lime bacon to hold you over for the table bacon, you know? I have no shame. Let's go. All right. Got the first round. The cinnamon syrup was too much. That is the thickest omelet. I'm gonna crush it in like 30 seconds flat. I'm gonna try the Pennsylvania Dutch scrapple. It's just like, it's literally just a patty of like pork. She said liver's in it, all that stuff. Baked French toast. Whoa. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna try this whoopie pie. Oh man, I'm covered in chocolate. Flip the slip over when you're finished dining, and no tipping, please. I mean, look at this spread. Like, if you wanted to try everything, you're inevitably not going to be able to finish it all.
What's really mind-boggling? All of this was just $16. And those affordable prices are why Americans fell in love with buffets to begin with. Buffets can be traced back to 18th century Sweden, where elites feasted on large spreads called smorgasbords. Around the same time, the French laid out fancy meals of their own. That's actually where we got the name for buffet, after the French word for sideboard, where the food was served. But it was a Las Vegas casino manager who brought the idea to the American masses in 1946 with a 24-hour buffet that cost just $1.
And that was something that didn't make him a lot of money. Herb's Buffet was meant to attract people there, and then they would stay and eat, and then eventually gamble, and that's where the casino made its money.
In the 1970s, buffet chains started to spread across the U.S.
Golden Corral. Delightful, delectable. At Old Country Buffet, kids always get what they want.
The restaurants could keep meal prices affordable because they had heavy foot traffic and low labor costs.
It doesn't take very many people to run a Golden Corral compared to a fancy restaurant.
There weren't as many servers, and a smaller kitchen staff cooked in big batches. While a chef at a sit-down restaurant can cook for 25 people in an hour, a buffet chef can serve 200.
The profit margins at these places were razor thin, but it is definitely something that gets consumers in the door. And for a lot of restaurants, that's challenge number one.
By the 1980s, buffets were a roaring success.
And a key part of the American dream is having excess, right? Having lots of stuff. And in a way, an all-you-can-eat buffet fits perfectly in with that.
You know, Wendy's Super Bar is great for families because there's something for everyone.
The concept was so successful that big brands like KFC and Wendy's hopped in on the trend.
I went to Pizza Hut regularly in high school for the buffet because it was cool as a high school kid to gorge yourself with pizza.
Shady Maple's founders started the buffet at the height of all-you-can-eats in 1985. From a small roadside veggie stand in the 60s, their new 300-seat buffet concept was a quick hit. 1.5-hour waits were common. But soon, all-you-can-eat stumbled across the country. In the era of fad diets, customers opted for healthier options. Then,
into the 90s especially, there are a number of fairly high-profile incidents involving kind of mass food poisoning at these places.
In 2000, a Milwaukee Sizzler was responsible for hundreds of probable E. coli cases. In 2003, a Chi-Chi's in Pittsburgh was the site of, at the time, the largest hepatitis A outbreak in U.S. history. Bad green onions infected 660 people and killed 4. In 2010, a man got salmonella from an Old Country buffet in Wyoming. The court ordered the chain to pay him $11 million in damages.
When you have enough stories in the news about people getting food poisoning from these places, that affects public perception, and people will go elsewhere, and it's been downhill ever since.
Between 1998 and 2017, more than 1,300 all-you-can-eat restaurants in the U.S. closed down. Then came the coronavirus pandemic.
It's hard to imagine a more lethal blow to all-you-can-eat buffets than COVID. Everyone takes from the same trays and puts it on their plate. There's a bunch of silverware sitting out. It's all communal in a sense, and I don't want to eat food that maybe other people have sneezed on. That's just gross.
Sizzler, one of the biggest buffet chains in the U.S., announced bankruptcy in September 2020. The following year, the parent company of Old Country Buffet did the same. The pandemic shook Shady Maple too.
We had to close here for over 5 months. We reopened, then we had to close again between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
They started doing takeout, but what really kept the company afloat, Summer says, was the Shady Maple grocery store behind the buffet, which brought in thousands of customers every day. But since 2021, Shady Maple's buffet business has come back with roaring success.
The last 2 years have been our best years ever, and we're continuing to thrive.
Shady Maple's reputation for making fresh food has kept people coming back.
There is this notion that everything is fresh or homemade. That's a different kind of proposition than a CC's or a Golden Corral.
Instead of using pre-made mixes, Chef Brian Nagley whips up the bechamel sauce for the mac and cheese from scratch, using milk and shredded cheddar. He also makes the stuffing, or filling as the Pennsylvania Dutch call it, by hand, following the founder's original recipe. He mixes 10 pounds of butter with bread cubes.
You can feel it. You know what I mean? You feel it with your hands.
To keep food fresh, the staff monitors the buffet closely and orders more when a tray is close to running out.
So this is our ordering system that we order the food here, that it goes back to the fryer aisle in the cooks department.
Kielbasa!
The fryers get the ticket, this one for fried shrimp, and fill the order as quickly as possible. That ticket stays with the batch back through the order window. But while an order of fried shrimp might take chefs 2 minutes to fill, the fried chicken takes 30 minutes.
He's putting a load of chicken in. His name is Tungsten. And then after he puts it in, we have them programmed in. 18 minutes it takes for fried chicken. What's your nickname, son?
The handsome man.
Because he thinks he's handsome. He calls me boss lady.
Tongsun dunks and breads every piece by hand. Each order has 60 pieces, so he's always juggling multiple batches at once.
Yes, ma'am.
Cook John Plott cooks the veggies they chopped earlier.
What'd you just put in?
Cabbage. Yes, ma'am. Cabbage, and then when it comes out, we throw some of our brown butter and cornflake mixture on top of it. Summer. This one just froze again.
Most restaurants have a shutdown, and we don't. We keep going from the moment we open at 7 a.m. till we close at 7:30. So the equipment sometimes gets tired, like everybody else does.
Down the aisle, John jumps in to make potatoes.
We mix our mashed potatoes for 5 minutes. If you do it under, they don't turn out. If you do it over, they don't turn out. There is a science to it.
At the end of the aisle, chefs pull the briskets out of the smoker.
So on a Saturday, we'll go through 42.
We have it down to a science where it's a hickory smoke, cooked 12 to 14 hours.
Here they're grilling rows of pierogi and kielbasa sausages.
Hi, it's me again.
If you're like me and want to stay for both breakfast and lunch, you just have to go back to the front and pay the $13 difference.
It's not actually an advertised thing. You only hear it by word of mouth. It's a fun little perk from being here.
If you have the stomach for 2 meals in a row.
Yes.
Round 2. The only thing Summer said I needed to eat was this brisket.
How long have you been working here for?
Long time, and I've been always on this grill.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
Some people say it's expensive, but it's actually really cheap. You know, when you think about it.
Hey! Love it. I need to get the fried chicken. That's what everyone told me was the best thing here. Cool. Handsome man, he's the one that made that. Okay, got the goods. And I think that's the stuffing that Mr. Brian made for us. Can I get a burger with cheese, please? Oh my God. We haven't seen any of these foods yet. Oh my Lord. Oh my God. Okay. So the plan of getting a little bit of everything does not work when there is 700s of everything.
Finally, I got to dig in, starting with these bright pink pickled eggs, a traditional Amish eat.
Look at that. It's not as bad as some of the people I've watched on YouTube expressed. It's very vinegary, but I think it's just the color, man. Like, to see an egg that's literally as pink as flesh, it's a little jarring, and I don't know if I can get past that. Okay, so the fried chicken, look at that. Now that, crispy. God, that's good. Best thing I've eaten all day. Bar none. Best thing. Wow. No wonder he knows he's handsome. We're gonna try this pulled pork.
The barbecue pork and Cajun catfish were decent. The mac and cheese?
That's actually really good. The brisket! 7 people said this brisket was like the only thing to get here, all right? Not to say my expectations are like to the moon, but they're high. No, it's a little dry. Good chicken wings. Good chicken wings, good fried chicken, good fried shrimp. Oh, the mashed potatoes! So it's like a creamier version of what you would get out of a box, I think. I mean, for the amount of food that you can get, like I feel like the quantity alone is kind of worth it.
So we tried the Chinese buffet, we tried Golden Corral, and we were comparing both of them, and we realized how bad the actual food is at both of them. And then when you come over here though, this place is actually decent. It tastes more like real food. I'll definitely come back, yeah. This is my 3rd time like the past two months.
We came one time and that was it.
Yeah, that was it.
And now we look forward to coming every week.
I love this place.
By 5:30 p.m., the line has wrapped around the lobby and out the door. Like all buffets, Shady Maple works on thin margins, but this volume has kept it afloat. It sees 3 times more traffic than a Golden Corral in the area, and 15 times that of a local CC's. And because of that giant line, each platter of food is turned over quickly, within 20 minutes.
That does alleviate some of the food safety issues because you're turning things over so quickly, nothing sits around for too long.
But when we look at like the decay of the American buffet, I feel like this doesn't even sit in the same category.
Shady Maple has found its niche. It's not only the largest buffet in America, it's also leaned into the allure of the Amish country around it, focusing on home-style Pennsylvania Dutch food and touting local eats like that scrapple and mush.
And I think the reason that this place has endured is like food aside, it's the experience.
With a gift shop and a grocery store looming behind the buffet, Shady Maple has become a destination.
They become rare enough to be novel again, right? And people will go to Amish country and say, oh, let's go to Shady Maple, because who the hell has one of these in their neighborhood anymore?
These cooks are preparing 4,500 meals at the Schlegel Mess Hall, the U.S. military's largest dining facility. At 60,000 square feet, it serves Army soldiers, Air Force airmen, and Navy sailors who train at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas.
Daily, I'm preparing at least about 3,500 to 4,000, at least for breakfast. Our head count goes up for lunch, so we automatically feeding at least 4,500.
That's some good pasta right there.
We need a balanced, nutritious meal. This is the powerhouse right here. So this is where we provide you those meals that is going to allow you to get up and be the best that you can be for that day.
Business Insider spent 2 days with Schlegel staff as they prepared for the largest meal of the day, lunch, while following a color-coded system intended to encourage service members to make healthier choices. The 3 main courses are 600 pounds of ginger pot roast, 1,400 pounds of Bombay chicken, and 210 pounds of cheese tortellini with marinara. There's also an assortment of vegetables, short order food, and a salad bar that feeds 4,000 to 4,500 trainees in just 90 minutes. Personnel from all branches of the military train at Fort Sam Houston, many of them at the Medical Education and Training Campus. In 2013, the dining facility was named in honor of Sergeant First Class Wayne Schlegel, a distinguished Army combat medic.
Mashed potatoes? Mashed potatoes. Thank you.
Gravy?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I can definitely make my day. I come here about 3 times a day. It's included in my BAS, so might as well. The experience is really cool. All the staff are very nice. I've built a bond with a couple of them, especially for being here for so long, so it's just nice to see those familiar faces here.
Schlegel serves about 66,000 meals each week, about 35,000 to Army soldiers, 18,000 to Navy sailors, and 13,000 to Air Force airmen. All trainees are required to dine at Schlegel for lunch Monday through Friday. To prepare the meal in time for 4,500 trainees, the lunch staff is broken into 2 shifts: the night crew, which prepares the food, and the lunch crew, which cooks, pans, and serves it. For today's meal, prep begins at 8 o'clock the night before.
Gazan, Teresa, of course, y'all know there's Knuckle. I saw it out there. Chicken quarters. I haven't seen the tortellini, I haven't seen the lasagna. I'm gonna go check on that, okay? So y'all do your thing.
Our overnight crew comes in, they cook off the ginger pot roast. It's not fully cooked, but they brown it and cook it off. That way, when I come in, that makes it easier to slice once it's cooled and everything from what they did. And then once we slice it, we go back into the oven. So it's like a whole process.
To prepare the ginger pot roast, the cooks start by unpackaging about 600 pounds of beef knuckle. They move it into pans, season it, and move it all into ovens to brown. While the beef knuckle browns in the oven, the cooks begin placing the chicken quarters on pans, so they're ready to hit the oven when the lunch crew arrives the next morning.
You know what chicken this is?
1,400 pounds.
Kind of a workout.
Yes.
On the other side of the kitchen, another cook finishes boiling macaroni noodles for the pasta salad.
See, that's some good pasta right there. Good little pasta sack.
Let it sit for about 10 more minutes, it should be cool.
While the pasta cools, the cook begins preparing salad for the salad bar. At the same time, cabbage is being washed and chopped in preparation for the calico cabbage dish. With the pasta cooled, the cook returns to the tilt grill to add in peppers, onions, and seasoning. It's then scooped into a pan and stored in the fridge. After just 3 hours of prep, the cooks move all of the food into the refrigerator for the next shift.
Okay. Well, no, I might need that for my folks.
The next day, lunch prep begins at 6 a.m. A cook seasons the chicken quarters before sticking them in the oven. While another slices the pot roast.
How long does it take you to slice up all the...
Depending on how much you use, but an hour and a half. About 400 or 500 pounds.
Once it's sliced, the pot roast is placed back into the oven to finish cooking. In a 60-gallon kettle, the marinara sauce is made with 114 pounds of pizza sauce, vegetable oil, and an assortment of seasonings. Once the sauce is ready, it's poured over the tortellini. And placed in the oven to cook. With the main courses underway, 450 pounds of peas, carrots, and cabbage are added to the tilt grill and boiled. While more cooks pan and prep the remaining produce for the salad bar.
It's not really a challenge or it's not too hard for us because most of us have been here 10 to 15 and 20 years plus. So it's like we're in the motion of doing this already. We kind of already have this idea of, you know, I know how many soldiers I'm gonna feed. It told me we fed this much last night, so I know to project this head count for the next day.
In the hot kitchen, the chicken is removed from the oven, moved into serving pans, and topped with Bombay sauce. The chicken is moved into warmers to stay at a safe temperature until lunch, while the ginger pot roast goes back into the oven to continue cooking.
I've never met a person before that has not had a sweet tooth. But again, my key word is balance.
Cooks prep the desserts by cutting over 2,000 slices of cake and moving them into individual serving containers. Schlegel orders over 1,800 cakes per week.
So our desserts that we provide here at the Schlegel, they come in a multitude of combinations. Some are pre-prepared and some that are prepared in the facility. However, we try to cut down on the sugars and the fats, but more importantly, it's all about the taste. So if we can fool them and give them a great taste, then we have won.
In 2022, Schlegel Hall served 2.1 million meals.
It's not how much food we serve, it is what is our grocery bill. So our grocery bill is astronomical.
According to Schlegel, the mess hall spends $14.2 million annually on the food provided to trainees for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, served 365 days a year. And managing that food is a logistical challenge.
I have dairy Monday through Friday, produce the same thing Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then I have my bread Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday and Friday. So basically there's always something going on with what's coming in or what's going out.
The kitchen at Schlegel has 10,000 cubic feet of refrigerator space.
It's a big freezer. I can probably hold to maybe up to $300,000 worth of food. But I vary about 187 to 200,000. My meats will be basically hidden back here where my pallets are. My breakfast items, sausage, pancakes, waffles. This will be all our greens, which is asparagus, green beans, broccoli, peas, corn. It goes all the way to that back wall over there.
As lunch nears, the staff prepares the dining rooms and moves the produce onto the salad bar. An elevator helps them move the food between the two dining room floors. The food is removed from the warmers and set out on the serving line. Outside, trainees begin to make their way to the mess hall. Typically, trainees are required to march into lunch in formation. However, on this day, because of an unseasonably cold Texas morning, trainees were permitted to arrive independently.
Instead of limiting us to just one item, it's cool to have a variety, especially throughout the week. It's not the same thing every week. For me personally, it takes me a little longer to try and figure out what I want to eat for today. But just going through the line, they offer us, I believe it's 2 proteins and then 2 sides. So there's just a different variety of sides. So sometimes it's hard to pick.
You want to try it? You got to try it.
I always do stop at the salad bar as well. Usually to try and add a little bit of extra protein, so maybe some eggs or some ham cubes to my meal.
Serving 4,500 trainees in 90 minutes is no small task. Schlegel is broken into 2 floors, each with its own serving lines and dining room that feeds 1,100 at a time each, meaning trainees must eat quickly so everyone can be fed in the allotted time.
Most of the companies we have anywhere between 200 to 300 people. If you're closer to the front of the line, you get a little bit more time. If you're near the end, you don't get as much, but roughly 15, 20 minutes or so for everybody at least. And then, they want you outside ready to go so we can go back to class and, focus on our primary studies and everything.
There's no specific calorie count that we're trying to hit because we do not tell an individual that you can't come through the line again. However, it has to be balanced.
The menu follows a DoD-implemented program known as Go for Green, which encourages service members to make healthier choices. On the serving line, the food is categorized into 3 groups, each represented by a different color. Green for healthy foods trainees should eat often, such as steamed brown rice. Yellow for foods trainees should eat occasionally, like hot rolls. And red for foods trainees should eat rarely, like gravy.
If you was to ask me why trainees need so much food and why we have to provide the balanced meal that we do, it's because they are not at home anymore. They are not on the couch. They are out here training, getting it in, defending the country that we all love. And in order to do that, you got to have the spirit. We don't provide that, but what we do provide is the fuel and the energy that you need in your body.
As lunch comes to an end, trainees leave the mess hall to return to their training, while Schlegel staff cleans the dining room and prepares for dinner, which is now only 4 hours away. These cooks are preparing over 13,500 meals for the 4,400 midshipmen who attend the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. For today's meal, kitchen staff told us they ordered 7,500 German sausages and about 500 pounds of sauerkraut, in addition to this sliced Leberkäse, a German meatloaf similar to bologna, for the Academy's annual Oktoberfest celebration.
Voila.
Feeding these future sailors isn't like feeding your average college student.
As a midshipman, they are engaged with a lot of activities, academic, military, and sports activities as well. So it is very, very important for us to feed them at least between 35 to 4,200 calories per day.
And the food doesn't just have to be plentiful, it also has to be good.
If food's bad, people's morale will be bad. If food's great, people's morale will be great.
You know, we're trying to boost the morale because back in the fleet, it's nothing like this. It's a real deal, but here we take care of them.
Cooking for thousands of midshipmen is no easy task. A staff of over 50 cooks and nearly 100 wait staff serves the students 3 times a day.
This is a beast here. This is a machine that never stops. The second you're done with one meal, you gotta jump on the next or you're not gonna make it.
We got access to the Naval Academy's dining hall to see how different meals are prepared and served, starting with the biggest meal of the day, lunch. But not just any lunch. It's Friday, which means they're serving the midshipmen their favorite meal.
Can you explain to me what is your favorite meal here?
Oh man, my favorite meal is definitely buff chicks.
I think buff chicks. I know a lot of people are big fans of buff chicks, and I am as well.
Yeah, definitely buff chicks.
Buff chick stands for buffalo chicken, and because it's so popular, we have it every Friday now. But typically it consists of a chicken patty.
That's chicken right there.
And then they have this really like spicy sauce, and people usually just slap it on and add some potato wedges, call it a day.
We actually moved buff chicks from a Wednesday meal to a Friday meal this semester, kind of boost the morale going into the weekend.
We serve that every week, and we try to pull it away to get angry at us.
When I first started, the chicken would be deep fried to try to make it a healthier item. It has since been cooked in the combi ovens.
Kitchen staff told us they prepared 7,000 to 8,000 pieces of chicken for this meal, which they put on trays with enough fries to feed the entire student body. The trays are then placed in the combi ovens and baked until everything is crispy.
Nowadays we have combination combi ovens, they call them, that will either cook radiant heat, convection heat, steam heat, or combination heat. That's the combi oven where you can adjust it to anywhere from 0 to 100% humidity, cook, half radiant, half steam.
While the chicken patties cook in the combi ovens, 2 cooks prepare the sandwich's signature sauce and cheese.
How many bowls do you have to do in the buffalo sauce?
Right now we're doing like 400 doing. Yeah, the chicken too, we always do like 400. The favorite ninja here is chicken.
I have to do 40 trays of blue cheese to feed 418 tables of midshipmen.
Wow. It's a lot of blue cheese.
Yes.
Once all the food is prepped and ready to go, it's a race against the clock to get it out the doors and onto the tables in the Naval Academy Dining Hall, known as King Hall, a 55,000 square foot dining hall with 392 tables.
Right now we're in King Hall, which is the wardroom. We call them wardrooms in the Navy, not a dining hall or mess hall or chow hall. So we have a different term because we operate like we're on a Navy ship and it's a wardroom there. So this is the officer's wardroom.
King Hall is located in the center of Bancroft Hall, the massive dormitory on campus where all midshipmen reside.
It's the largest single building dormitory in the world. All 4,500 or so midshipmen live together in Bancroft Hall, split between 8 different wings and 30 different companies.
While King Hall staff finish prepping for lunch, all midshipmen gather in front of Bancroft Hall for formation.
Our brigade commander gives us commands, carry swords, all that stuff. After all the attention, parade, rest, all that fun stuff, they say, center face, and that's when the whole brigade turns towards the middle of T-Court. And from there, they say forward, and then everyone starts marching towards Bancroft.
The academic schedule is such that they're really in class from 7:55 to almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Whereas a typical college university, you might have a class at 6 o'clock in the morning, that you may have your last class 6 to 7 o'clock at night, and they can go and eat whenever they want to. Not here. So we're limited by the time, what the academic schedule says we can do.
They come all together and sit at the same time.
King Hall waitstaff then serves all 4,400 students in under 5 minutes. A task aided by 30 heated carts.
Basically, one tray is one table. 20 trays equivalent to 20 tables multiplied by 12. So we have over 30 carts.
It's insane of how they roll out these great carts, and then from there they have trays of food and they're just handing it out to different tables. And this is all in a span of 5 minutes because everyone's hungry and they're all trying to eat.
I've been in the big command. I've been in the carrier, which we serve 5,000 to 5,500 people. At no time that I serve 5,500 in one sitting. But this one is a little bit different. The massive sitting of 4,400 in 15 minutes is tremendous and never seen like it before. And they only have from the start to finish, they only have 15 to 20 minutes to eat their food.
But the midshipmen eat in about 10 minutes. It's like they inhale the food. We do, because we put 18 pieces on each table, so 150%. So we give them additional rod table. Another thing too, we always have a few trays extra. So if they want more food, we just tell them, raise your tray up. The staff will bring you more food out here.
We got not one, but 2 buff chicks. So we call it the double Mc buff chick chicken sandwich.
What's so good about it?
That's the mystery. That's what makes it that much better.
The buff chicken might date back further than I've been here, since I've worked here. And since I've been here, it's always been a favorite. It's never come off the menu. I don't envision it coming off the menu, but I know if we ever took it off the menu, we'd be in trouble. We'd have some complaints.
But feedback is welcome at King Hall, A student liaison tasked with gathering the midshipmen's thoughts on the meals works with the kitchen staff to help refine menus.
Really what we do is we take midshipman feedback and improvements that we can make in King Hall and translate that into how it could actually happen with the civilians and the military staff.
Also, before releasing a new menu cycle, the staff invites midshipmen to come in and taste potential meals to see what they like.
We have what we call menu boards, where we bring in vendors that come in here with the new products to display them. We have 60 midshipmen that come in, sample it, they grade it, they give us a score and say, okay, we like this, put it on the menu cycle.
They do so much for us here to try and provide us with good food and in a quick manner that everyone's gonna like. So they're always trying to work with feedback from midshipmen and staff saying, hey, here's what we didn't like about this meal, here's what we did like. And so immediately we try and go in and solve that problem.
The menu is only one reason this meal is special.
Because today is the Navy's birthday. So happy birthday, Navy, 248 years. Today is a day to think about our legacy.
George Washington formed the Continental Navy in October 1775 to protect American colonies from British attack. 70 years later, in 1845, Secretary of the Navy George Bancroft, the namesake of Bancroft Hall, founded the Naval School in Annapolis, Maryland, which later became the United States Naval Academy. Lunch at the Naval Academy is a mandatory meal, where all 4,400 midshipmen eat together at once.
Well, the big difference you have here is we're still traditional. It's family-style feeding. But most everything else in College University is bars, Chick-fil-A, Subway, that they've contracted out with the local fast food restaurants to come in and do the food for them.
For the birthday celebration, staff and students take part in a traditional cake-cutting ceremony using a sword.
For the Navy birthday, we usually have cake cutting, in which the oldest person of the brigade and the youngest person of the brigade take turns cutting the cake and eating it, which is really fun to see. Like you'll see an old prior who did 2 to 3 years of service before coming here, and then you'll meet it's typically a plebe who's 17 years old and they barely made it into I Day. So the contrast is super fun to see.
This year, the oldest midshipman at the Academy was born in December 1996, and the youngest in April 2006.
I think it's just symbolizing the connection of the Navy. It takes us between our present and our past, and all the people who have, helped to defend this country.
In addition to the large cake, each table is given a smaller cake for the oldest and youngest midshipmen in their squad to cut.
Thank you.
The Navy birthday lunch has its own set of traditions. But even for everyday meals, eating in King Hall involves a lot more rituals and customs than a traditional college dining hall. Every table seats a squad, a group of about 12 midshipmen from each grade level at the Academy, all with different nicknames.
Freshmen first years are called plebes, then youngsters second years. In your third year, you're just called the second class midshipman. But then your last year, your senior year, you're called the firstie.
In the middle of the dining hall stands a raised area known as the anchor, where leadership gathers before the meal. One unique tradition in King Hall is a favorite among students, a ritual they simply call Beat Army.
Essentially, if a plebe or someone at the table opens a can of peanut butter and there's the seal on it, they'll pass it to a plebe, and they have to essentially heat up the jar as best they can.
The reason why is because they need that warmth to make sure when it comes out it's very liquidy. So they stand up on the chair, they unscrew it just a little bit, but not too much, and then they scream, "Beat Army" at the top of their lungs and smash it against their forehead.
Beat Army!
and so it'll all explode everywhere and go on people. And so it's pretty funny.
Some people hit other mids, which is kind of frustrating if you have a nice crisp uniform on, but just to get it as far as possible. And we have grads that come in here and sometimes eat, and they'll still do it. And so we try and do it as much as possible. Unfortunately, if mids don't clean it up, it is kind of a headache on the staff to clean it up. So we limit it in the same sense, but it is a fun tradition.
At 12:30, lunch concludes, and the midshipmen quickly gather their things and head to their next class. Back in the kitchens, cooks have already begun prepping the next meal, a unique dinner that will require all hands on deck. Tonight, the Naval Academy will celebrate Oktoberfest.
We've been doing that for about 8 years now because we have a contingent of German midshipmen that come in from Germany.
Tonight's entree, various pork, beef, and vegetarian wursts.
The sausages, for the most part, are prepared in our ovens. They're not boiled, they're just prepared in ovens. They're heated up, they're cooked all the way through and heated up, and we serve them that way.
Like the sausages,
Voila.
a lot of the food in King Hall is prepared in ovens.
Some of the food here are mostly pre-prepared foods already. Not a whole lot of scratch cooking, like I said, due to the manning constraint.
I hate to say it, we always have staffing issues, shortages, but the show must go on. It's tough with any government hire because everything has to go through all the red tape and the bureaucracy and stuff. It's not like the private sector where if you need somebody, you can hire them off the street and have them working the next day.
I have about 45 that's actually working in the kitchen right now.
For side dishes, cooks are preparing about 500 pounds of sauerkraut and a mound of red cabbage. And Leberkäse, a traditional German dish similar to a bologna meatloaf that cooks slice into individual portions before placing it in the ovens.
Usually the day before, the staff will start preparing the food. They'll put in whatever pans they need to do it, put it in the oven racks and whatnot. So the next day when they come in, they're basically putting the items in the oven or in the vats and whatnot. So it's difficult if we try to do everything in the morning of, we just run out of time.
The menus at the Naval Academy are carefully crafted to fuel the needs of the midshipmen.
So our primary focus is making sure that they're getting enough carbohydrates, protein, and fat, as well as fruits and vegetables for fiber and micronutrients. So it's really a balance of all of those things.
In addition to the daily meals served in King Hall, there are alternative options in King's Court, which offers grab-and-go meals, as well as a large salad bar. Vegetarian options are also offered daily.
They are prepping for the midshipmen that has some dietary restrictions and stuff, so we give them available options.
While some midshipmen have dietary restrictions, others require more calories than their classmates.
There are certain sports that require higher weight, so those midshipmen do require more calories. So in those instances, they're going to have a little bit bigger portion sizes.
The Navy football team, for example, receives double portions for every meal.
We definitely always have to have extra. Football team gets 200%, maybe 10, sometimes 20 pans extra.
Let's go.
Back in King Hall, it's nearly 5:30, and waitstaff is being assigned to their positions to serve the special meal.
From there. When it's empty, you need to replenish it, okay? Okay. You help them too, okay?
Meanwhile, other staff members are adding the final touches in nearby Dahlgren Hall to convert it into a German beer hall.
Why do you guys go all out to do these events and really, promote morale here?
Oh yeah, because basically this is a campus, so we're trying to boost the morale. Every month or so we have a special menu or special events for them. Because back in the fleet, it's nothing like this in the fleet. It's a real deal. Here, we take care of them, and we do a lot of functions and special events for the crew. people to boost their morale.
Well, let me put it this way. We spoil them, okay? We operate on a 4-week menu cycle and we try to mimic a lot what they're going to get in the fleet. The fleet operates on a 20-day menu cycle. They have no flexibility and change it. We have flexibility. I can buy food, or we can buy food from any vendor that we want to. Because we're trying to encourage them, motivate them, and provide a good morale that they stay here. Because being a midshipman in the academics and the sports is a tough job for them.
Back in Dahlgren Hall, midshipmen begin filing in for the festivities.
A lot of times they'll come in, full lederhosen, or the women will come in a dirndl.
Midshipmen over the age of 21 are allowed to try a selection of imported German beers. But everyone is under the close watch of a task force to make sure they're all following the rules.
What's it like doing all these events?
It's a great opportunity to get to network with a lot of the officers, but also actually eating authentic food. That's the cherry on top.
Cost we get for midshipmen now is up to $20 a day. Our biggest challenge is not running out of money, it's trying to spend the money, so we keep adding new items on the floor out here so we can spend the money.
After each meal, the staff gathers all of the dirty dishes and brings them to the scullery. Every single plate, cup, and piece of silverware must be washed before the next meal.
It's unique, that challenge that you need to feed the 4,400 Brigade strong. It's what kind of gets me up and interested and pumped up to do my next day.
I guess there's a sense of purpose in cooking for midshipmen and future leaders of the world. It feels as if you're, maybe pushing towards a higher calling.
I worked at the Air Force Academy for 8 years, been here 14 years, so I'd say I've got about 40 years food service experience. I've always loved it. It's always what I dreamed of, and this is a very ideal job.
These chefs are preparing a traditional Kashmiri feast known as a Wazwan for 700 wedding guests in Srinagar, Kashmir. The 25-course meal takes 2 days to prepare and uses 125 pots to cook 1,000 kilograms of meat.
ये वाजा बनने में टाइम लगता है सीखने। मुझे भी टाइम लग गया बहुत सीखने।
That's Muhammad Sharif Khan, the head chef, known as the Wusta Waza.
मैं हेड बस्ता हूँ यहाँ पे। मैं पिछले 35 साल से कम काम कर रहा हूँ ये। हमारा ये खानदानी काम है। दादा परदादा हमारे ये काम करते हैं। मैं अपने वालिद के साथ बचपन से ही निकला हूँ ये काम करने के लिए।
We visited Srinagar to see how a Wazwan is made in such big batches. The first day begins with chopping fresh vegetables, unwrapping spices, peeling chilies, and cleaning all of the pots known as degs.
तो ये एल्युमिनियम नहीं बनाते हैं। एक तो साफ सफाई होती है उसमें, दूसरा इसमें लगने का खतरा भी नहीं होता है।
Outside, truckloads of wood are unloaded to fuel the hundreds of pots.
इसके लिए अलग से ही लकड़ आता है। वो होता है या तो अखरोट का होता है या एप्पल का होता है, नाशपाती का होता है। जैसे बागात जो बगीचा होता है उसके पेड़ होते हैं, वही कट जाते हैं और उसी पे खाना बनता है।
Once the pots are set, it's time to start preparing the meat. Among the 25 courses the kitchen prepares, the mutton dishes, gosh taba, tabak maz, and rista are some of the most important.
तो इसमें बनाने के लिए मेहनत भी लगती है बहुत। सबसे ज़्यादा मेहनत है रिश्ता गोश्तावल। इसको फ्रेश मीट होना चाहिए, बिल्कुल गर्म, जैसे ज़बह किया 10 मिनट में, हम 5 मिनट में हमारे पास पहुंचना चाहिए।
To make these dishes, fresh cuts of mutton are trimmed and divided into separate parts. The boneless pieces are then pounded flat with these wooden hammers, known as gosh bares.
से बना हुआ सामान है, जैसे वो देखा हमर देखा आपने मटन जिसे कूटते हैं, वो भी कश्मीरी कारीगरी बनाता है। यहाँ का जो हम नाइफ इस्तेमाल करते हैं, वो भी कश्मीरी कारीगर हाथ से ही बनाता है। ये बर्तन जितने बने हैं, ये हाथ से ही बने हुए हैं सारे। ये कॉपर के बर्तन हैं सारे। 5 एक बंदा दूसरे को देता है, दूसरे तीसरे, उसका सारा रेशा एक एक करके रेशा बाहर निकलता है सारा। फिर जो लास्ट में होता है बंदा, वो उसको थोड़ा फैट मिलाता है और मसाले मिलाता है, इलायची दाना पड़ता है, बड़ी इलायची का, वो मिकदार के हिसाब से होता है, अपने हिसाब से डालते हैं। उसमें नमक भी पड़ता है, उसमें फैट भी 5-10% फैट भी जाता है फूलने के लिए।
After the fat is added, the waza at the end dips his hand in water and rolls the meat into bowls. By the end of the day, the team will prepare 700 kilograms of mutton. The last dish to be served at the Wazwan is goshtaba.
एंड होते हैं गुश्ताबा। गुश्ताबा का इंतजार करते हैं लोग लास्ट में। गुश्ताबा एंड गुश्ताबा के बगैर वाज़वान कंप्लीट नहीं है।
To make it, waza cook the mutton meatballs in a curd gravy known as yakni. They pour the curd into a pot with a bit of water and let it boil before adding fennel, cardamom, clove, ginger paste, garlic paste, and mint powder. After an hour of cooking, the meatballs, mutton stock, desi ghee, and fried shallot paste are added into the gravy. Because it's a curd-based gravy, it needs to be constantly stirred, so it doesn't burn or curdle.
एकदम हाँ हाथ से हम देखते हैं, वो बिल्कुल नरम होना चाहिए, फिर वो खाने के लायक हो जाता है।
The goshtaba takes about 3 hours to cook and is finished with a topping of more curd. Rista is also made with meatballs, but instead of curd, it's cooked in a water-based gravy and seasoned with local chilies and spices. Waza cooked the meatballs in a bit of water and oil before seasoning them with Kashmiri chili water, turmeric, cardamom, clove, saffron, and Kashmiri cockscomb flour for color. After this, garlic, fried onion paste, and lamb stock are added into the pot. Similar to goshtaba, rista takes about 3 hours to cook. Another popular dish is tabak maz, a twice-cooked mutton rib dish. First, the ribs are boiled in water and seasoned with turmeric. Once boiled, they're seasoned with cloves, cinnamon, cumin, cardamom, fennel, dried ginger, and desi ghee. Once the ribs are cooked, they're taken out, chopped into smaller pieces, and then braised in ghee to give them a brown and crispy crust. When all of the food is ready, guests are seated in groups of 4 and wash their hands in a basin called the tash tenari. The meal is always served on large copper plates known as taramis. Every tarami is loaded with rice and carefully topped with mounds of meat in a specific order.
तरामी बनाने में उस्ताद होना चाहिए खुद, उसको पता है मुझे कहाँ पे क्या लगाना है। सीख कबाब जैसे उसमें 5-6 आइटम लगते हैं ऊपर, तो होशियारी से देना पड़ता है कि कोई आइटम अगर दूसरी कारीगर कोई भूल जाएगा तो उस्ताद वहाँ पे खड़ा रहता है, वो याद दिलाता है ये आइटम लगाया, इसमें पूरे आइटम हो गए कि नहीं।
Over the weekend, the Wazwan is served 4 times.
तरामी में कम से कम मटन 4 किलो भी पड़ता है, 3 किलो पड़ता है, जैसे बारात में होगा तो 5 किलो मटन भी पड़ता है।
While this might seem like a lot of food, none of it goes to waste. Instead, guests are expected to save some and take it home.
और ये हमारे मज़हब में सुन्नत है एक साथ खाना, मुस्लिम नहीं। नहीं, यहाँ कश्मीर चम्मच से नहीं खाते, हाथ से ही शुरू करते हैं।
The wedding also doesn't have assigned seating.
That is the uniqueness of this Wazwan, because we don't know each other for that matter. We don't know that, but when we just eat together over there, so that way we come to know about each other. Yes, the four persons, unknown persons, sometimes they just come together and eat together over there. That's my favorite thing. And you will not find that anywhere in the world. That's only in Kashmir you find it.
It's believed that the Mongol ruler Timur brought chefs and recipes from Samarkand, Uzbekistan, to Kashmir in the 14th century. Once in Kashmir, the recipe began to evolve and incorporate local ingredients that would form the modern Wazwan. The final dish served at each Wazwan is goshtaba.
My favorite dish is goshtaba only. It's totally different from other dishes like that. It's wholly and solely made in milk, and that way no chilies over there. It has got totally different taste for that matter.
वैसे यहाँ मेहमान नवाजी है कश्मीर में, ये हमारा रिवाज है। वाजवान यहाँ किसी को भी मेहमान आएगा घर में, उसको वाजवान खिलाते हैं। बाहर से कोई आएगा।
Every game day, chefs at the University of Michigan's football stadium whip up food for over 100,000 hungry fans.
Named the Big House because it is the largest stadium in the U.S.
That's Chris Carr. He's in charge of a culinary team of 35 cooks.
There's an enormous amount of pressure on everybody, horribly stressful. Everything we do is based on time.
And they have to make every game count.
You know, a restaurant is open 365 days a year. We have to make all of our money, really, in 7 days.
The stadium aims to earn $1 million a game, just from food and beverage.
Game day goes quick. So if you ain't ready, then you'll be behind.
But that's not easy in a stadium that's almost a century old. There's only one concourse and one elevator to move an entire game's worth of food.
No. Usually it's about an hour away.
Here's how chefs race against the clock to feed football's biggest crowd. We're just 24 hours away from kickoff, and this is when the action picks up.
So the goal on a Friday before game day is always that everything is ready to roll.
Deliveries from the main kitchen come in on the service level. Chris says this one truck holds as much as $20,000 worth of food.
I'm sure he's got multiple pallets coming in. So it never stops, we just keep on going. With your legs.
On a Friday like this, everyone's job is to get as much cooking done as possible.
You don't want to have to walk in on game day and then do a whole lot of production. You just want to just go, go, go.
In one area, they're setting up veggie platters and prepping salads.
So stuff that can't sit for a long period of time without being compromised.
They'll grill mark hot dogs and burger patties.
It's quick. If you can do it quick without dumping them all, it works really well.
I'm always keeping up the game day though, so I'm a big Wolverine, so.
Chris handles salmon rosettes for salads headed to the private suites.
Can't be done too far in advance. It is fresh fish. You always have to make a little bit of spare. So if there's not one that's exactly the way I want it to look, I've got ones that I can work with instead.
Then chefs bring the food to the cooler to load onto carts.
There he is hiding back there. All right, there's your rosettes.
This is an organizational nightmare. Each of these carts ends up at one of over 70 kitchens and prep areas around the stadium. So chefs run through checklists.
Relish was 11. French onion is 9.
To make sure the right dishes end up on the right cart. They also label each cart with the item and quantity.
That way we know that we've got everything where it's got to be.
He's getting nervous.
He's had 400 carts to build, so.
I know, right?
In the main kitchen, hot food gets labeled with a color for each concession stand.
And then where's the red? The red is actually pink. We don't do red here because It's Ohio State.
They'll move as much as they can on Friday before the concourse fills up with fans.
That way the food's up, ready to go.
Chris heads out for the day around 6 p.m.
When we walk into those doors tomorrow morning, they all know what's important. Couple minutes to 1 outside the big house. Time to fire it all up. Chef coming in. Chef coming in. I announce myself when I come in. The stadium itself will be swept by bomb dogs throughout the course of the evening. The last thing you want to do is walk into a dark, quiet kitchen and startle a bomb dog. All right.
Chef Chris turns on all the equipment and runs over the plan for the day.
Then when we walk in on Saturday, all we got to do is fire and go.
By 3 a.m., his sous chefs start rolling in.
So far, so good. Now we're just moving into the next phases.
By 8 a.m., they're frying the chicken tenders, and they've got to move fast.
I'll go through 40 cases of chicken tenders each game just for the sweet level alone.
Chefs also slice up meat for shawarma and tacos. Just like in the main kitchen, pizza preppers are racing against the clock.
I can say the challenges of trying to make 6,000 pizzas in 4 hours.
Buddy's is one of the stadium's newest vendors. Its Detroit-style pizzas are made off-site, but have to be cooked, cut, and boxed in the stadium on game day.
Just like the field, right? You gotta have a great team. We're just trying to go out there and put on a good performance. Come home with a dub.
Buddy's, like every other kitchen in the stadium, feels the squeeze from a lack of space. The University of Michigan's Big House was built in 1927. While expansions through the years have added more stands, suites, and towers, the bones of the stadium have stayed the same.
So typically, most buildings are going to hold 50 to 80,000. You're going to have, a 20% no-show rate. The no-show rate here is maybe 5%. So we're getting over 100,000 people every single game.
It makes moving food a nightmare. There's only one tunnel to cart food along, and only one elevator.
I've been standing right here for about 30 minutes waiting on the elevator. We just stopped on floor 5. I don't know if they have to get out. For reasons like this, I gotta wait for them to stop on their floor, and then I get off on floor 2, so we gotta go back in the elevator and push these halfway across the stadium.
Banquet server Cameron Brennan walks up to 6 miles a game, dropping off food. It's a trek he doesn't seem to mind.
If you got a little bit of spare time, you could take a glimpse at the game, I love it though, because I get to watch the football games, It's real cool. The elevator took like 40 minutes, man.
Finally, Cameron drops off his delivery upstairs.
Well, I guess this is where we part ways. Go blue, go blue.
This is the level with all the box suites. They come fully stocked with food and drinks.
So essentially, we get all the food, we bring it up, it comes up all nice and wrapped. We'll unwrap it, and then as my suites get here, I pull out their cold food and set it out nice for them.
Sarah Jacobus has been serving the same 4 box suites since 2014.
So we've got frittatas, fruits, goes with their beautiful parfaits. And then I find that people will eat these more if there's spoons in them, so it works out really nice. And it's kind of cute.
It's 2 hours before kickoff, and the gates open.
So once gates open, I begin walking the building.
That's Michael Jordan, a different Michael Jordan. He works for Sodexo Live, the catering company for Michigan Athletics. Since the big house has so little room to move inside, Michael set up water stations and shipping container food stands outside.
It's really allowed us to expand our footprint of the stadium.
The new layout has been a huge success. Total food and drink transactions are up over 13% from last year, increasing the stadium's revenue by 11%. Michael says that's thanks in part to simpler menus and a better flow in the concourses. Constant communication on walkie-talkies also helps the team keep the food moving.
With 100,000 people with cell phones in the area, service just kind of drops to nothing.
Across the stadium, workers are scooping popcorn out of trash cans, prepping pretzels, and finishing burgers.
There's no playing catch-up when there's 100,000 people in the building.
By now, lines are starting to form.
We are a really busy stand. I don't know. They love it.
Hot dogs are the stadium's #1 seller. It moves about 10,000 of them each game. Concessions move quickly. Servers aim to get food to customers in under a minute. Speed helps the culinary team hit its $1 million sales target each game.
And that's just in food and beverage. We're still not serving alcohol in the stadium.
This year, the university has one fewer home game. That means it's set to miss out on nearly $9 million in ticket sales, which makes food earnings all the more important. New ordering systems have helped speed up some concessions. Self-checkout averages just 18 seconds a transaction, and it's helped this burger stand double sales this year. Now it's crunch time.
So about 15 minutes before kickoff will be our first really big push.
Finally, the action on the field kicks off. But the food doesn't stop rolling.
And then halftime is definitely our biggest push.
You're not walking around with this. You're mid. We score a touchdown, boom, popcorn goes flying. It's like shooting confetti out, but it's popcorn.
Michigan pulls off a win against Rutgers, but the chef's game day isn't over.
I tend to hang all the way through to the very bitter end. And once it gets to the end of the game, there's no leaving until they're all gone. So you're just in it.
It's not uncommon for staffers to pull 12-hour shifts.
I mean, a lot of them are here more than they're at home. It's amazing they keep coming back. Dempsey, don't smile like that.
Michael says that's why finding the right team is important.
It's hard to hire 700 people for an event for 7 times a year.
About 500 of these workers are actually volunteers from local charities. Sodexo Live donates a percentage of food sales to their causes. The catering company pays only about 200 of them, including the chefs and servers. They make between $30 and $50 an hour. Chris does one final walkthrough of the now quiet suites.
Well, we've reached 3 o'clock. For me, I'm about 14 hours in on the day.
He's assessing waste.
Chili, they've gone through about half of it. The wings are gone. Handful of hot dogs, handful of veggie brats left. But when the day is done, the trash can never lies.
He'll use this info to tweak food ordering for the next game.
It's a giant stadium, and so you're going to have excess.
Volunteers pack up all the extra food to be donated to local pantries.
We're in the range of about 5,000 items a game of what they're picking up.
Then they gear up to come back in a few weeks and do it all over again.
I mean, I'd mark this one down as probably a solid B+, maybe an A-. Looking forward to the next 3 to go.
This mega kitchen in Japan carefully prepares 3,000 school meals every day. Since 1967, the Musashino City School Lunch and Dietary Education Promotion Foundation has been cooking these meals to promote healthy eating habits among young children. We visited its kitchen, Sakura Tsutsumi Cookhouse, to see how these lunches are made in such big batches. The day's preparation starts around 7:30 each morning. Staff members change into sanitized factory shoes and color-coded uniforms and wash their hands twice before entering the kitchen. This is Takagi, He is the nutritionist in charge of the menu, and he is our tour guide for the day.
衛生面では、上処理側という衛生区域に入る人は白い前掛けをかけます。そして、泥野菜等を洗う、非汚染区域、汚染区域というのは青い前掛けをして洗います。
The kitchen is spread across 3 floors and spans 3/4 the area of an American football field. Inside, 70 staff members break into small units, working in unison to prep, cook, and package all of these meals in just under 4 hours.
この部屋は野菜を洗う部屋です。うちはオーガニック、有機野菜を使っていることが多いので、虫等がつきやすいです。
キャベツを、切ったものをほぐしてここで洗って次に、汚れとかも取って次の水槽に渡しています。虫とか卵とかないかをチェックして、なかったらこっちに送り出して送り出します。
虫とかっていることってあるんですか？虫とかがいることってあるんですか？
あります。
地場なんで泥付きでくるんで、泥を落としてから、天井を取って皮をむいて味噌汁に入るんですけど、今日は120キロ。
Today's meal consists of millet rice, miso soup, sticky shumai dumplings, cabbage and mustard sauté, and milk. Takagi plans each meal 3 months in advance, so the team has enough time to source all of the ingredients and account for students' allergies. Every menu item he adds is tailored to fit the nutritional needs of different age groups, so every student gets the most nutritious meal they can possibly have.
ここは今お味噌汁を作っています。今日は市内産の大根、オーガニックの小松菜、国産大豆の生揚げ、あとわかめになります。
This massive pot is large enough to cook 750 kilograms of soup at a time. The base of the broth is made by boiling thick slices of dried bonito and lao scalp in water.
今昆布の硬さを見ていて、出汁が出てくると柔らかくなってきたりとか、表面にプツプツができてくるので、そのあたりを目安にしています。
それはやっぱりちゃんとしたものを子供に食べさせたいっていう理念で、そういうちゃんとした
そうですね。はい、
出汁をちょっとそれを説明していただいていいですか？
やはり子どもたちは味覚が非常に育つ時期なので、味に対しては敏感なんですね。
Most of the staff who work here are mothers of students, and many of them take great pride in knowing that the food is made with care and nutritional and healthy ingredients.
お母さん方が、やはり自分事として自分の子供が食べているので、一生懸命やってくれてますね。
One of the most popular items the kitchen makes is shumai. Here, 15 staff members use 180 kilograms of ground pork, 40 kilograms of soybeans, and a variety of blended vegetables to make around 200 shumai by hand. And by the end of the shift, they'll make about 3,000 shumai.
手作りでいいところは、すべての材料がはっきり分かるので、安心して、子どもたちに提供できます。また、食物アレルギー対応においても、材料が明確になっていますので、事故が起こしにくいというふうに考えています。
On top of monitoring allergies, the kitchen is diligent about food safety. Some of the meat used to fill the shumai is always saved and monitored for bacterial growth.
保存食という形で、取り置きをしてまして、食中毒の可能性があったときはここから検査をいたします。これに可能性があるかということで確認をするために2週間程度保存をしています。そのための温度と匂いであったり異物が混入しているかなどは確認をしています。
Besides safety, the kitchen prioritizes using fresh, organic, and local ingredients.
やはりですね、食育という観点でしっかり日本の食文化を伝えていくという観点で和食献立を出しています。国内産を中心にですね、有機ジャスや特別栽培を優先して使っています。将来子どもたちが食卓を担うようになった際にですね、 身近にある日常的な食材を使ってしっかりと献立が立てられるように、そういった見本になるようなことを考えて献立を立てています。私どもの献立ではですね、基本は週に3日はお米ご飯です。それで1日はパン、残り1日は麺類が基本となっておりますが。
To make the rice, the kitchen uses 6 giant pots.
今は43キロです。
かき混ぜるの大変そうですね、それだけあると。
はい。結構体力使います。
In total, 250 kilograms of rice will be made in a very short period of time using a special process.
一度に大量のお米を炊くためには、湯炊きという、炊飯方法になります。この湯炊きというのは、炊飯で一番大事な、お米を入れてから沸騰するまでの時間を短くするために、一度お湯を沸かした中に、お米を投入して、攪拌をするという、大量調理の特殊な方法になります。
And finally, this is the main cooking area, where the cabbage and mustard sauté is made. 140 kilograms of the washed cabbage is boiled before getting sautéed with komatsuna leaf and carrots.
そうですね、結構釜が大きいので大変です。
いい味です。ちゃんと温度も上がっています。一度舌でちゃんと温度も温度計でも測ってますが、食べてみて、ベロでちゃんと確認してます。味付けもいいと思います。
Once all of the food is cooked, meals are portioned into thermal containers and loaded into 5 delivery trucks.
桜堤調理場では、一律の中学校6校と小学校2校合わせて8校に対して、合計3000食の給食を提供しています。子どもの好きなものを出したいという気持ちはありますけれども、やはり食育の観点と、栄養バランスのこともありますので、子どもの好きなものばかり出すわけではありません。味覚のですね、発達を促すためにも、いろいろな食材ですとか料理を食べてもらいたいと考えています。伝統的な食文化とですね、食材の生産と消費についての理解を深めてもらって、食についての正しい理解を深めることでですね、子どもたちが将来大人になった時に正しい食生活、食習慣を身につけるというようなことを目的としています。
All of the ingredients used are funded by the students' families, who pay school lunch fees. Each meal costs about 340 yen, or roughly $2.50, for middle school students, and about 240 to 280 yen for elementary students.
どう？今日の給食どう？今日の給食どう？あれもう食べ終わっちゃったね。
いつも早い人。
今日何美味しかった？何が良かった？
シューマイか
で、給食を通じてですね、食への関心を高めてもらって正しい食習慣を身につけることを目的としています。自慢できるところは最新の設備と地域人材の活用だと思っています。最新の学校給食衛生管理基準に対応したですね、衛生的な設備と、あと空調の設備と、職員が働きやすい環境であります。皆さん、児童生徒のために一生懸命働いていただいておりまして、そうですね、こちらの施設の原動力の一つとなっています。
Meals at West Point are served here at Washington Hall, the historic mess hall where Army cooks have been feeding West Point cadets for nearly 100 years.
At meal times, the destination is Washington Hall, where the cadet gains back the pounds he lost during last summer's hike. And the food is tops in wholesomeness.
Probably our most difficult meal to support here is our lunch meals, where the cadets have about 25 minutes to get into the building, sit down, eat, and get out.
I think the one thing that a lot of people don't realize is how fast it all goes. So it starts at noon at formation, we all get in there by 12:10, and then after that the food is served to 4,000 people and eaten all within 15 minutes.
But it's not just the cadets who have to move fast.
A lot of the cook staff who have been in those military environments and who have understood what that means to serve and what that looks like. So I think they try to structure the menu so that they may see similar things when they're out, not at West Point.
But how does the staff at West Point prepare over 4,000 nutritious meals that can be served and eaten in under 25 minutes? Insider was granted rare access to the mess hall to see how they pull it off. The food is prepared underneath the mess hall, in a labyrinth of hallways, kitchens, and freezers.
So feeding 4,000 cadets is certainly a challenge. It is also a very well-oiled machine.
We've got multiple refrigerators and freezers here.
My whole background in the Army has been in food service the entire 20 years that I've been in the Army. In the cadet mess, I have approximately 90 Department of the Army civilian employees that are cooks. They're the ones that cook all the food. But we also have another approximately 130 or so contractors that work in the mess here, and their job is to actually serve the food to the cadets. The challenges preparing 4,000 meals 3 times a day are substantial. Our staff is arriving at 3:30 in the morning, and we're not opening for breakfast for another 3 hours, but the reason is because it takes that 3 hours to prepare food for 4,500 cadets.
On the menu for today's lunch, spaghetti with meatballs, breadsticks, fruit salad, broccoli, and iced cake. Prepping enough spaghetti for over 4,000 students starts nearly 2 hours before lunchtime. In the large kitchen, cooks start the spaghetti by boiling 400 pounds of pasta in these giant vats. Then, they add 22,500 meatballs, which they prepared early this morning, enough for each cadet to have 5. With the spaghetti underway, cooks begin steaming 720 pounds of broccoli. Meanwhile, in the bakery, 400 cakes are being iced and placed on carts. Back in the main kitchen, cooks drain the water from the vats and add 150 gallons of tomato sauce. While the spaghetti is simmering, cooks in a temperature-controlled cold kitchen are preparing for a lunch that won't be served for another 2 days. These cooks are opening 2 pallets of frozen ribs weighing 3,600 pounds and breaking them into pieces. Prepping meals days in advance is one of the methods the mess hall staff uses to serve so many cadets so quickly.
For menu development, I work with a dietitian that works for the United States Corps of Cadets, which is upstairs from the cadet mess here. We come up with options that using Army recipes that are in the Army system, as well as other recipes that are available online, and we review those recipes, make sure that they meet the dietary guidelines that they need to meet for West Point's standards, and then we try them out.
I am a registered dietitian and a certified specialist in sports dietetics for the Corps of Cadets at West Point. So the menus are structured in a certain way to make sure that they are meeting all of their calorie requirements. So on the menus, there's usually carbohydrate-based foods, which are going to fuel their brain health, support their academic performance, as well as prime their muscles for some of that moderate to high intensity exercise that they're going to engage in. And then we usually have plant and animal-based protein sources in order to support their tissue and muscle recovery. And then we have a lot of different fruit and vegetable options, so fresh fruit. We have cooked vegetables at the table, as well as a pretty robust salad bar that provides lots of antioxidants to make sure that they get that color in, it supports their immune system, and make sure that they combat some of that inflammation that's occurring from that intense exercise.
Once all the dishes are finished, they are served into portioned containers and loaded into heated carts.
We have around 50 to 75 of the hot carts going, so generally speaking, each hot cart will hold food for about 10 tables.
10 minutes until assembly for lunch formation.
Before lunch formation and before morning formation, the plebes call minutes, and they say the meal for that day.
For lunch, we are having chicken, rice, and vegetables.
After receiving the minutes read aloud by freshmen known as plebes,
5 minutes remaining.
cadets get into company formation in front of Washington Hall in an area called the apron.
All right. Right.
While the students gather, members of the West Point Band play them into formation. Meanwhile, inside the mess hall, the waitstaff is setting out the water and bread for the 25-minute meal.
Oh, it's like everything you've seen in the movies. Before formation, we hear the band start kicking off, really telling us to fall in the companies.
4 count 4.
Once the accountability is taken of the company, then battalion, and the regiment, we all start marching to the beat of the drum to the mess hall. And really, the drums help us stay in step, keep the cadence, and keeping our military bearing.
As cadets file in, the waitstaff has only 6 minutes to get the food from the hot carts onto each table.
We make sure that all the table is set in terms of etiquette and making sure that everybody has their silverware, plates, napkins, cups. The plebes are actually in charge of making sure that this etiquette actually happens.
Meals at West Point are full of traditions that the cadets observe, like the plebes pouring water for the upperclassmen.
Etiquette is a huge deal in the military, and so this kind of just reinforces from your first year here that etiquette is super important.
At the plebe end of the table, every seat has a specific role and responsibility.
Typically, you'll have one person at the end, and that's your cold beverage corporal. They will be in charge of making sure that everyone has a cup full of water, because there's water pitchers on the table when you get there. And then there will be a gunner to the left of them at the end of the table. They're in charge of the desserts. And then to the right of the cold beverage corporal is the hot beverage corporal. That person is in charge of getting, if there's soup in the buffet line or like coffee in the mornings.
Take seats.
And then the plebes will call the table, which means that they basically say like the 4th class has performed all their duties and now we're ready to eat. And then at that point, we all start eating our meal.
Portion sizes are crucial to ensure each cadet is receiving their daily caloric intake. But some tables in the mess hall receive more than the standard portion.
So there's a variety of different cadets here, right, with a variety of different nutrition needs, and they're always doing different levels of activity.
Tables with a heavy designation receive a portion and a half, and tables with a heavy sign get double portions.
For some of the athletes that we have that have to maintain a higher body weight for their sport, such as football or heavyweight wrestling or some of our track and field throwers, they require more calories to be able to support that activity, as well as keep their body weight in a range to be competitive in their sport. So they may need more calories to support that.
Let's go.
For cadets, lunch is a mandatory meal.
They're all coming here from all over the country and honestly all over the world because they're exchange students as well. So it's a way to make sure that they can build that camaraderie and build that teammate, build that team together by making them have that meal.
For upperclassmen, breakfast and some dinners are optional, where they can choose from several other options on campus. Another tradition in Washington Hall, all 4 years of students sit next to each other for lunch.
I love having a table with both freshmen, juniors, seniors. It definitely allows you to interact with people in your company that you normally wouldn't. And we switch tables every semester as well, so we get to build those new relationships with people throughout our 4 years here.
What are some of the favorite meals of the cadets here?
So I think probably the most favorite meal, and something you'll probably hear a lot, is there's a spicy chicken patty that the cadets absolutely love.
My favorite meal here would probably be either spicy chicken or the sweet and sour chicken with rice.
Favorite meal is definitely Crispito, sir. It's like a hot dog burrito, if I had to explain it.
I really do like the Taco Tuesdays. I also think they do a very good job with the seafoods.
What's your least favorite food here?
My least favorite food would probably be taco night.
Probably the pork chop.
I'm not really a big Philly cheesesteak guy.
Sometimes they'll get burnt out on eating chicken. You know, there's only so many proteins that we can prepare. Chicken is one of them that really almost everybody eats. So, you know, it's trying to find different ways to season the chicken or different ways to prepare the chicken so that, you know, their palate doesn't get burnt out from eating the same thing.
This is Washington Hall inside the cadet mess area, as we call it. So behind me is the famous mural. The inspiration behind this was by General Douglas MacArthur, class 1903. And in the 1930s, he became Chief of Staff of the Army. He worked with the academic board here, and they came up with the concept of battles, leaders, commanders, and technology. You'll see Alexander the Great up top with a chariot. You'll see siege rams and so on. All the states are by admission. So you got Arkansas, Texas, Iowa, California, and so on. Behind me is the entrance from the mess hall when it was finished in 1929. So below me, about 3 or 4 feet, would be steps, and then the grass area out here. This was the front of the mess hall. So in the early 1960s, the idea was to expand the enrollment of the academy because the Army and the Air Force Academy, which was only a few years old, had an enrollment top of 2,500, where the Naval Academy had 4,000 midshipmen by law. So there's different aspects that occurred, but in 1965, the law was signed and they started building, expanding. So they built out from the original 1929 mess hall this way.
So at the end of the meal, normally they'll call upper class rest or brigade rise, and then at that point everybody can get up and leave. So at that point, meal is ended. It usually only takes like 12 to 15 minutes for everybody to eat, and then we're on our way to our next class.
And when is the next class usually start?
Our next class starts at 12:45.
As the cadets begin to leave Washington Hall, the waitstaff cleans the tables. And back in the kitchens, the cooks have begun preparing dinner, which is only 5.5 hours away.
After completing basic training, future culinary specialists head to Fort Lee, Virginia, to train for 8 weeks, where they'll learn how to cook for up to 800 soldiers in this. It might not look like much now,
Stand clear. Give me a call.
but when it's fully assembled, it has the capability to act as a fully functioning kitchen that can keep troops fed in the most remote of environments.
We went from a box on wheels to a whole freaking kitchen, right?
But before trainees cook for hundreds of hungry soldiers out in the field,
That shit looks like more than 5, doesn't it? No.
they have to start with the basics.
There you go. Okay.
Some of them don't even know how to turn a stove on.
Insider spent 5 days at Fort Lee, observing several classes at various stages of training.
One of the main things that I like to tell my soldiers as I'm training them is we don't just provide food, we provide fuel. For those personnel who are on the front line, for the war fighter, fold this side in.
3,000 to 4,000 members of the Army and National Guard graduate every year from the 8-week course, which is broken down into 5 sections. First, classroom training on food safety, sanitation, and nutrition. Then, hands-on training in the techniques of cookery, before moving on to baking, cookies, pies, and more. Next, 5 days of cooking in the garrison dining hall. Finally, training culminates outdoors, with a week of cooking in the Army's mobile kitchens. Trainees arrive at Fort Lee with varying levels of cooking experience.
What kind of experience did you have cooking before arriving at Fort Lee?
I cooked a lot with my mother.
I have an associate's degree in culinary arts.
I had no experience at all cooking.
Prior experience is not necessary. One of the awesome things about our job, everything you need to know, we can teach you here.
So the customer ate it, they got sick. That's all it takes.
Training begins in the classroom, with 2 days of instruction in sanitation and nutrition.
The information that trainees learn is to ensure that they're cooking good, nutritious food for the warfighter. And then they also learn about safety, sanitation, how to prevent infectious disease, how not to transfer and cross-contaminate food, and then how to provide safe meals.
Sanitation is everything. If your people aren't safe and if you aren't safe, then the mission can't be completed.
Trainees are tested at the end of each block of training in the form of a 50-question exam.
We have anywhere from 9 to 15 different diseases that they learn. And then they have to understand what food items they're found in, how do their practices impact their ability to be able to spread those diseases to different customers within those facilities.
You will go to your stations, you will put on your hat, and you'll put on your apron.
Training moves from the classroom to the cooking labs during techniques of cookery.
The techniques of cooking is basically their first introduction to the kitchen. Some of them don't even know how to turn a stove on, so that's where I get to teach them how to use their equipment.
But before they start cooking, trainees need to become familiar with the tools they'll be working with.
This first bend in your finger, this first little knuckle, all right, this is gonna be the furthest point out. So this is gonna be on your knife. It'll be just like this. There's a couple methods that I use, like a claw method, making sure that they tuck their fingertips underneath, because in our field, you kind of need your fingers, you kind of need all of them. Cube is what? Same size all around, right? All right, so.
Trainees get to see instructor demonstrations on how to cook certain foods during their first 4 days in the labs. But they won't have that luxury later on.
Weigh up your beef, put it in your large pot, and you just move on to the next step, okay? They'll come up to our front of our stations and we'll literally show them how to do it step by step, accordance with the recipe card. Then they have the opportunity to go back to their stations and apply what we taught them how to do that product. If you don't have rice in your small pot yet, half a cup of rice, all you have to do is read your recipe cards, guys. That is key. If your beef stew is at a boil, you're gonna put the lid on your beef stew and then turn it down to a simmer. I think in this whole procedure, if you don't understand how to read a recipe card, then you're gonna fail. You have to be able to read it step by step. That way you can learn how to do these things and execute. That looks like more than 5, doesn't it? Looks like 6. Jesus. There you go, okay? The hardest thing is probably retaining information, learning the techniques that we teach them, and then applying it. Take your ladle, you don't want to overkill. Make it look nice and neat. Part of your grade is presentation, guys.
Once the trainees have completed their recipe, they bring their finished product to the back of the cooking lab to be graded on presentation, technique, and execution.
We teach them the basics, it's how to cut, how to slice. We also teach them how to simmer, how to braise, how to saute, and then we teach them about moist heat, dry heat. All those things incorporated get them ready for what is known as a cook-off at the 5th day. Don't stress out. Have fun. Make sure you have your utensils.
During the cook-off, trainees have 1 hour to prepare a chef's salad, green beans lyonnaise, and spaghetti with a ragu sauce, but won't receive a demonstration or explicit guidance from their instructor.
Coming in today for cook-off, I was actually excited because I enjoy cooking. That's fun. I was a little nervous about what to expect, unknown, not knowing like, oh, I make a mistake.
It was just a whole lot of anxiety, a lot of nervous thoughts and excitement bunched in one cluster.
5 minutes, okay? 5 minutes. Sometimes they are scared because there is a time that they're timed with, and also, it's just stressful. And then you got me watching you around your back and all that stuff.
At the end of the cook-off, the trainees' dishes are graded on a number of criteria. They'll be docked points if items are not cut properly, dishes are undercooked or overcooked, or if their sauce is not the right consistency.
The thing that you did wrong was supposed to be slices, correct? So
I thought we meant
those are rings.
Oh.
Yeah. But you did good on everything else. You overcooked your onions a little bit, okay, and they're a little bit too big, okay? A lot of the students did a lot of things right. The biggest thing is when they do cut-ups. Some of their cuts that they do for these products are either too big. Some things that are wrong is they don't drain all the liquids off of certain individual items. Presentation is important because it's all about eye appeal. So when you go to any restaurant and you serve something outstanding, that's going to show the people that you put your flair into it. You put your own artwork into it. Sauce, it's outstanding, good job. Salad, good presentation, and good cuts, right? So good job. All the trainees passed all their products today, so it makes me feel very happy. It makes me feel like they listened to what I had to teach, and they applied it to everything that they plated on their presentation.
And actually preparing it and see actually how you got all this put into one dish. It comes out so well. It tastes so good. It puts a lot of pride in your heart.
Sure you use your rubber spatula to get all that sugary goodness inside the bowl.
Now armed with a foundation in the techniques of cooking, trainees move on to baking.
Well, you know, everybody has a sweet tooth, but like I say, we're just not feeding soldiers, we're feeding civilians too. So we just make sure we give them a nice home away from home treat, and I think everybody deserves that. When you're putting your sweet potato pie mixture in your shell, ensure you do not get it on the edges or it's going to burn. Everybody tracking? Remember, get your butter knife, you will stick it in the center, and then pull out, it should come out clean. So if not, just put it back in there. But sometimes in techniques of cooking, they have trouble in that, and then they become the best baker in this section because they know they have to pay attention to detail and they can't skip any steps.
Baking is a science, and if you don't pay attention exactly, you're gonna get it wrong.
If we had a conventional oven, yeah, it will be done, but these gas, because the heat is coming from up from the bottom, it's taking longer for it to cook around it.
I've learned a lot with Miss Harrison. She's a great cook, great teacher.
So once your fruit pie and your sweet potato pie, when they're done, I want you to put them both on the same sheet pan. And then we're gonna present it over there by our numbers.
Once again, the trainees' finished products are graded on a number of criteria.
For my custard pie, you guys did a real good job. So the filling looks good, so now my eyes is going to the crust, okay? So that's what's gonna sell me, the crust. Ooh, it's tight. Who's this, number 6, number 2, and number 7 again. You did a good job today.
The baking module of training also ends in a 50-question exam and bake-off. But for now, trainees get to enjoy the fruits of their labor. The Garrison Operations module of training is a culmination of everything the trainees have learned so far.
It's the first glimpse of what they will see once they get to their actual unit after they graduate.
Trainees spend 5 days cooking in an actual Garrison kitchen at Fort Lee, preparing a variety of food.
Platoon, attention. While you prepare for cook now, fall out.
We observed one platoon of trainees over the course of several mornings, which starts at 0500 with what's called a cook's mount.
It's accountability for everyone that's supposed to be on the shift. And we're checking for the hair, we're checking to make sure that it's nice, neat, we're checking for nail length, we're checking to make sure that there's no abrasions or make sure that they're not sick.
Once the trainees pass their daily inspection, they start preparing breakfast.
Think about when y'all made cinnamon rolls upstairs in small quantity baking. You're making it the same way.
Operations are a lot more thorough than what I had expected it to be. Everybody is assigned to their own station and position, and whatever doesn't get done in the end, we pick up the slack and as a team and work together to ensure that food gets handled out in an orderly manner.
Slice the entire ham up, cut it off, then you remove the ham, right, and you put it into your third pan, okay? For the first couple of days, I look for them to be sort of confused. They don't know where things are. They don't know how to turn on certain equipments and things of that nature. You want to kind of make it in a straight line, right, and then remember which ones you laid down first, right? Come Thursday and Friday, then that's when the instructors typically take a step back, and then we kind of let them operate on their own so we can see if they're grasping the information.
Even though it was stressful, it was really like hands-on, and you got to like learn and experience a lot more things, and you got to make more like meals, prepare dishes for like other people to eat, not just yourself and your platoon.
Thank you very much.
Trainees head outside for the 5th and final module of training, which is focused on field cooking operations.
So you're gonna alternate your meat between here and here. You know what I mean?
The equipment that we teach here at Field Operations Training Branch, that's the equipment that we use in the operational force.
But before they can start cooking in the mobile kitchens,
On lift, everybody raise it up. Ready, set, go.
1, 2, 3, on lift.
they have to learn how to build them.
Let me get 4 up there, everybody else down here on the ground. So the mobile kitchen trailer, we can use that when we got up to 300 personnel to feed 3 times a day and in basically any environment. Take a mental note of where everything is, all right? Because that's how we're going to pack it back up.
In addition to the mobile kitchen trailer, trainees are taught how to build and operate the Army's Containerized Kitchen, or CK.
The containerized kitchen, that is our largest field feeding platform. We're gonna use our containerized kitchen more often in a situation where we've built up some infrastructure. We have the capacity to feed 800 personnel, and with our capacity to feed more people, we can bring more people in to support that area, to defend that area, and to accomplish those missions.
Watch your head, watch your head, watch your head, watch your head. The process of setting up the CK is very challenging because there's a lot of big moving parts. You gotta watch out for your battle buddies because there's a lot of things that's unfolding and spreading out on the CK, so you gotta communicate.
Over the course of 2 weeks, trainees have to pass a 50-question exam and demonstrate proficiency with each piece of equipment.
We went from a box on wheels to a whole freaking kitchen, right?
Y'all made that with love, huh? Y'all made that with love. They look good.
The final week of training is spent cooking in the mobile kitchens, and not just for themselves.
At any given time, we can have up to 300 or 400 personnel out here on the grounds. They're gonna break down their meals, they're gonna identify how many personnel they're actually feeding, and then they're going to actually prepare meals for everybody at FOTB, not just their group.
I specifically told nobody to turn on the MBU without my eyes on it. You got this burning right here and no food cooking. Stop. Put them on there. Again, nobody will turn on any MBUs without me visually looking at you.
Learning in the mobile kitchen, it's been challenging because it's different. It's a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of things that you have to take in consideration.
The aspect that I do enjoy the most in the mobile kitchen is the closeness I get with my battle buddies. I could just be like, okay, here's this, put this to the side for a minute, help them out, cool, spin around, help the next person, go back to what I'm doing. Like, we work as a team.
1 full scoop of oatmeal, 1 full scoop of potato, and 1 of these.
In my experience, their response to utilizing the equipment is by far and away positive. They like learning and they like seeing the fruits of their labor.
When we go to the field, soldiers are tired, they're running through missions, they're running through lanes, and then when they see you, it's almost like they're not tired no more because they got food, they got nice, hot chow, and that's just the most motivating thing.
According to Fort Lee, about 95% of trainees who start the course are able to graduate. Once they do, they'll be assigned to their next unit, either domestically or at one of the hundreds of Army bases around the world.
Training here has been an experience, it's been fun. I learned a lot of new things, cooked in a lot of different elements and environments and stuff like that, so it's been great.
This job is not lower than any other job that's in the military. It's just as hard as any other job out there. What I think about food is morale. When they come out of the field doing, crazy things out there, and they have a good meal, hot meal, then it makes them just happy and gives them more energy and they're able to accomplish their mission.
Is the meat in there?
Yes, chicken. Chicken burritos.
These chefs are preparing 15,000 meals for the University Hospital of Lyon in France. On a normal day, the kitchen uses 1.5 tons of meat and 2.5 tons of vegetables and bakes nearly 13,000 loaves of bread. Behind this grand operation is the director of catering, Jean-Rémy Dumont, who believes in maintaining the art of cooking for the patients.
On n'est pas une cuisine d'assemblage. L'alimentation aide aussi à la guérison, donc du coup, il est très important. Sur l'ensemble du processus, on fait réellement un métier de gastronomie en fait.
We visited the hospital's kitchen to see how chefs prepare these meals in such big batches. The day begins at 6 a.m., when Patrick Girardot, the kitchen manager, oversees the offloading of fresh ingredients.
Nous recevons les produits bruts qui ne sont pas encore désinfectés et nous allons les passer dans ce tunnel de lavage qui vont laver les extérieurs, emballages, désinfecter tous nos produits alimentaires, qui vont être réceptionnés et déconditionnés de l'autre côté par les agents de la cuisine.
Donc on fonctionne sur un principe de marche en avant, donc à savoir qu'une denrée alimentaire qui rentre par le magasin ne doit jamais faire de marche arrière. Ça c'est pour des principes de maîtrise de la sécurité sanitaire.
Today the kitchen is making quiche, roast beef, meatballs with gravy and mashed potatoes, penne pasta with vegetables, spinach and pumpkin dumplings, and chocolate ganache tarte.
Les plats les plus appréciés, je ne vous cache pas souvent, sont les pâtisseries.
The kitchen cooks a majority of its hot food in these 260-liter pots, which can hold 3,000 servings at a time.
Nous avons ici 26 cuisiniers qui travaillent donc du lundi au vendredi sur des sélections de produits et avec une volonté de transformer le produit. C'est-à-dire on fait des cuissons, on fait des hachages, on fait des mixages, on fait des préparations, on reportionne.
The kitchen follows a local sourcing program for fruits and vegetables, so 20% of the produce is local and organic. All of the meals are carefully designed by dietitians and physicians, so that every patient gets the most nutritious meal they can possibly have.
Donc les besoins alimentaires ici sont très variés puisqu'on n'a qu'une population qui va de 0 jusqu'à fin de vie, donc on a tous les âges de la vie.
Overall, the hospital has developed 24 distinct dietary profiles that it matches up with patients.
Et ensuite, une fois qu'on a défini ces profils avec ces besoins nutritionnels, c'est là qu'on va élaborer et positionner des recettes qui peuvent répondre à ces apports nécessaires. Donc par exemple, sur un bébé ou alors sur une personne très âgée, on va plutôt avoir tendance à avoir différents types de textures. La personne normale va être avec une cuisse de poulet normale. Quant à un bébé, on va éviter les parties osseuses. On va triturer, donc on va faire des moulinets ou des mixés ou des hachés fins, où on va travailler sur la granulométrie de l'ingrédient pour arriver à le rendre masticable et donc plus facilement digérable.
On the other side of the kitchen, Samantha Laurent, the bakery manager, is making 13,000 loaves with her team of bakers.
Donc la cuisine centrale des Hospices civils de Lyon, c'est la seule cuisine centrale de France qui dispose de sa propre boulangerie.
One of the benefits of having an on-site bakery is that the hospital can control all of the ingredients and make custom loaves, like pain de mie, a crustless bread that's easy to chew.
C'est un pain qui est très moelleux et sans croûte, qui est pour une spécificité de patients qui ont des problèmes de déglutition et de dentition. Il ne faut pas qu'ils mâchent de trop. Donc c'est vraiment une création HCL. Et c'est aussi pour ça l'avantage d'avoir notre propre boulangerie, c'est qu'on peut créer aussi avec des soignants des recettes avec des particularités pour des patients particuliers. Et c'est un réel avantage d'avoir ce savoir-faire au sein de notre propre cuisine.
When all of the meals are ready, they're portioned, wrapped, and rapidly cooled to extend their shelf life.
Ici, nous sommes sur la chaîne de conditionnement. Ce produit est encore chaud à 63 degrés et une fois conditionné, il va être refroidi dans nos cellules de refroidissement, ce qui représente une étape cruciale dans le processus du produit afin de limiter les risques de contamination bactérienne et sanitaire.
Donc ici, un des postes centraux de la chaîne, puisqu'en fait c'est le poste qui s'occupe de la répartition des régimes et du plat principal. Un changement de produit si on en a pour la gestion des stocks, avec des ruptures ou un changement de menu. Le chargement dans la navette de transport, qui elle va partir directement dans le service de soins.
The cooled meals are then sent to 4 different areas of the hospital, like the maternity ward of Femme Mère Enfant, located in Bron, a suburb of Lyon. Before the meals are served, they're slowly reheated in this meal cart for 45 minutes. But the work doesn't stop there. One of the hospital's primary goals is making mealtime a pleasant experience. Since 2016, kitchen and hospital staff have been trained in meal attitude, a hospitality training by the Paul Bocuse Institute that focuses on making quality food and creating a pleasurable and relaxing experience during mealtime.
Alors déjà, le petit déjeuner de ce matin était très bon. En plus, ce qui est agréable, c'est qu'on a du choix. Voilà, on nous demande ce qu'on souhaite prendre le matin, donc ça c'est top. Et là, donc, nous avons de la volaille avec du riz et des épices. Voilà, donc ça tient chaud, c'est parfait. Enfin, c'est le repas qu'il nous fallait.
Il est temps un peu d'améliorer notre politique d'hébergement et de faire de l'hôtellerie pour que justement le moment du repas soit vraiment un instant plaisir, un instant de réconfort et surtout un instant où vous vous ressourcez.
Pour nous, il est très important que nos patients puissent se sentir bien lors de leur processus de soins. Et voilà, nous leur apportons une grande importance et nous pensons vraiment que la qualité de la restauration dans un hôpital permet d'améliorer le processus de soins et la guérison des patients.